Chapter 169. When Charlotte walked over, Conrad was speaking in German, and the person who translated was Shintu Tianfeng. Mr. Conrad said that our wind power project not only has to solve the problem of the submarine cable, but also has problems with our electrical engineering. It needs to be improved, otherwise the power plant will become unstable after operation. Shintu Tianfeng looked very serious and professional. This is a big investment for our Wanxiang group, and the higher-ups are also optimistic about this environmental protection project. We have to solve these problems. Otherwise, it will be a joke if we only find out that there are problems when the project is completed and the production is about to start. Shintu Tianyin said, I don't understand these things. Ask him where the problem is and how to change it. Shintu Tianfeng said to Conrad in German, You know what to say. Just say it. Charlotte, who had just walked over, had a thought. There was something fishy about this matter. Conrad nodded, then spread out the blueprint in his hand. He pointed at it and said, This needs to be improved. Use our German equipment. And here, there is also a problem here. It needs to be improved. It's not that I'm looking down on China's electrical engineers, but their design level is really not good. Shintu Tianfeng translated Conrad's words to Shintu Tianyin. Shintu Tianyin's eyebrows furrowed even more. Why are there so many problems? I thought there was only a problem with the submarine cable. Why is there also a problem with the electrical engineering? We also need to buy equipment from Germany. Ask him how much it will cost to solve these problems. Shintu Tianfeng said to Conrad in German, He asked you how much it will cost to solve these problems. Conrad said, I roughly calculated that it will cost about 30 million euros. Shintu Tianfeng then said to Shintu Tianyin, He said that the approximate budget is 30 million euros. So much? 30 million euros is already 200 million yuan. We have already invested more than 1 billion yuan. This is too much beyond my budget. Shintu Tianyin said. Shintu Tianfeng said, Tianyin, these hidden dangers must be solved. Otherwise, there will be big problems. Spending money is not a big deal. The success of this wind power project is a big deal. It will bring stable income to our Wanxiang group. Wind power generation was indeed a profitable investment, because wind power didn't need to be bought at all, and electricity was the future development direction of the energy industry. Charlotte glanced at the drawing in Conrad's hand. He found that there were traces of changes to the third drawing, and there were some German annotations. He said aloud, Mr. Conrad modified this drawing, right? Darling, you came at the right time. Take a look. Shintu Tianyin said with a smile. Shintu looked at Charlotte, not concealing his disdain at all. A private processing company knows the electrical engineering of wind power generation systems? Tianyin, it's not that I don't believe in Charlotte, but it's impossible. I think Mr. Charlotte should think about other things. Let's forget about such a serious matter. Don't waste our time. Shintu Tianyin immediately frowned, looking unhappy. However, she didn't flare up. Shintu Tianfeng also said sarcastically, Charlotte, do you want me to translate your words to Mr. Conrad? Do I need to translate? Charlotte said with a smile, In Germany, England, Spain, and France, oh right, and Japan and Russia, I don't need to translate. Was knowing German very cool? Shintu Tianfeng was stunned on the spot. It was as if he had a fly in his mouth. Charlotte said in German, Mr. Conrad, please show me your drawing. Conrad glanced at Shintu Tianfeng, as if asking for his opinion. Shintu Tianfeng nodded without batting an eyelid. Only then was he willing to hand the drawing in his hand to Charlotte. Charlotte took the drawing that Conrad had modified and looked at it carefully. During his time in Germany, he had desperately studied electrical engineering knowledge. He had seen and remembered thousands of electrical engineering drawings with his left eye, and he had memorized millions of words of electrical engineering knowledge. When he returned to China in order to build Joseph's smart machine tool, he had combined theory with practice, and learned a lot of electrical engineering knowledge. Therefore, even though he hadn't gone through a professional exam, he was already a qualified electrical engineer. Moreover, with the ability of his left eye, ordinary electrical engineers couldn't compare to him. Charlotte first looked at the original drawing designed by the electrical engineers in China, and then looked at the parts that Conrad had circled and modified. He had never come into contact with electrical engineering in the field of wind power generation, but the principles were the same, and the relevant calculations were also the same. Therefore, he only needed to use his knowledge of electrical engineering to determine where the domestic engineers had gone wrong, and whether Conrad's improvements were necessary. Charlotte looked very seriously, and his brain was constantly receiving the huge amount of electrical engineering knowledge and drawings that his left eye was transmitting to him. Humph! Shintui coldly snorted. I say, Charlotte, can you do it or not? Our time is very precious. If you can't do it, just say it. We won't laugh at you. Shintu Tianfeng also said, Charlotte, can you understand it? You have to be clear, this isn't processing screws and nuts, this is electrical engineering. Shintu Tianin also looked at Charlotte with some worry. She was worried that Charlotte would make a fool of himself. At this time, Charlotte handed the drawing to Shintu Tianin and said lightly, My dear, this German electrical engineer is deceiving you. He's deceiving me? Shintu Tianin looked at Charlotte in surprise. However, the ones who were the most shocked were Shintu Yi and Shintu Tianfeng. Shintu Tianfeng said angrily, Charlotte, speak clearly. Charlotte didn't take Shintu Tianfeng's anger to heart at all. He pointed at the parts of the drawing that Conrad had changed and said lightly, China's electrical engineers simplify things, but this German engineer complicates things. Here and here, there's no need to change anything. Right now, our country's level of wind power generation is already very advanced. There's no need to pursue German technology and equipment. There's no need to spend your 200 million. There won't be any problems? Shintu Tianin was still a little uncertain. Charlotte said, There won't be any problems. There's no problem with the China engineer's drawings. Kid. Shintu Yi couldn't help but become angry. He pointed at Charlotte's nose. Who do you think you are? You're just a high school student who knows a little bit about electrical engineering, and you're making irresponsible remarks here. Are you better than the German engineer? What a disgrace. However, Charlotte didn't get angry. He said calmly, I'm just speaking the truth. There's no need to spend money, so why should we spend it? Even if we spend money, it's still the Wanxiang Group's money. Is it your money? Or do you think that the Wanxiang Group will be yours sooner or later? The more Shintu Yi spoke, the uglier it was. Enough. Shintu Tianin was also angry. Second uncle. No matter how much money the Wanxiang Group has, they can't spend it like this. You guys keep recommending this German engineer, and the moment he comes, you give me a proposal to spend 200 million. What do you mean by that? Shintu Yi couldn't say anything. Although Shintu Tianin didn't say it clearly, the meaning was clear. You guys want a commission. Shintu Tianfeng followed with a smile. Tianin, we're doing this for the good of the company. We don't understand electrical engineering. How about this? I'll ask Conrad to change it again and change the proposal. What do you think? Change the proposal? Shintu Tianin sneered. Charlotte has already said it very clearly. There's no problem with the domestic electrical engineer's proposal. I don't want to see another engineer cheating money. Let him go, and don't ever appear in front of me again. Shintu Tianfeng was anxious. Tianin, even if there's no problem with the electrical engineering, there's still the problem with the submarine cable that needs to be solved. Conrad is an expert, we can't let him go. However, Shintu Tianin's attitude was very firm. I've already said it very clearly. I won't believe a liar. As for the submarine cable, I still believe in the domestic engineers. I've already decided that I'll ask a team of domestic experts to help us solve the problem. Shintu Tianfeng and Shintu Yi looked at each other. Both father and son's eyes were filled with hatred. To the father and son, Charlotte was simply a dung beetle that messed around. Wherever Charlotte appeared, that place would be ruined. When Charlotte saw this, he laughed bitterly in his heart. If it wasn't for Shintu Tianin, he wouldn't have offended Shintu Yi and Shintu Tianfeng in his entire life, nor would he have become their enemy. But now, it seemed that he had two more enemies. What are you talking about? Conrad's Chinese was very bad. When others spoke slowly, he could barely understand a few words, but when others spoke quickly, it was as if he was listening to a heavenly book. Shintu Tianfeng said angrily, I told you to draw up a plan. What plan did you draw up? He pointed at Charlotte and said angrily, This person, he said that your plan is completely unnecessary, and you even asked for 20 million euros. Shintu Tianfeng spoke in German, and this time, Conrad understood. He looked at Charlotte in shock, speechless. The reason was very simple, it was because he knew very well that his changes were not necessary at all. However, Shintu Yi and Shintu Tianfeng wanted a plan to get a commission, so he could only bite the bullet and concoct it. However, he did not expect that it would be exposed by the Chinese kid in front of him in an instant. Shintu Tianfeng said, Go back to your Germany. Shintu Tianin also held Charlotte's hand. Let's go as well. I'll take you to the back of the island. The scenery there is very beautiful. Charlotte smiled, all right. How about, let's go swimming? Shintu Tianin lightly hit Charlotte and said flirtatiously, You're so bad. The flirting between the two was like pouring salt on Shintu Tianfeng and Shintu Yi's wounds. The father and son watched as Shintu Tianin and Charlotte left intimately, their eyes almost spitting fire. Conrad suddenly said, What's that kid's name? Charlotte. Shintu Tianfeng looked at Conrad. Why are you asking this? Conrad shrugged his shoulders. It's nothing. He's so young yet so powerful. I think he's a very outstanding person. Furthermore, he's a very powerful electrical engineer. Shintu Tianfeng coldly snorted. He ruined our business, yet you're still praising him here. You're really something. You've failed, and our cooperation has ended. You can leave now. Then, my commission. You made me lose face, and you still have the face to ask for a commission. Shintu Tianfeng suddenly roared at Conrad. Scram! Chapter 170. After acting for a day, Charlotte felt that it was more tiring than working for a day. However, he also forgot what he promised Liang Xiao. When he left General Island in the afternoon, he went to the supermarket to buy a lot of ingredients and then cooked a sumptuous dinner at the Liang family. After he finished cooking, Liang Xiao went home. Where's Master? Charlotte asked. He's not coming back today. He's spending the night at the boxing gym. He said that he has to prepare for the martial arts circle convention, Liang Xiao said, and then looked at the table full of delicious food on the table. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have cooked 2 dishes. There's so much food, the two of us can't finish it, Charlotte said. If we can't finish it today, I'll eat it tomorrow. Liang Xiao giggled. Oh yeah, you said that you're with Shintu Tianin. What are you guys doing? Let's eat first, then I'll tell you, Charlotte said. Liang Xiao didn't ask further. After eating, she took the initiative to clean up the dishes. Charlotte went to the study to read Liang Zhengchuan's collection of medical books. After a while, Liang Xiao also came to the study and looked at Charlotte with a smile. Can you tell me now? She and we're not. Charlotte wanted to explain, but he didn't know what to say when the words reached his mouth. What he wanted to explain was very simple. It was that Shintu Tianin asked him to help and pretend to be dating her. However, he felt a little guilty in front of Liang Xiao because of this. He wasn't a blockhead. In the past, he couldn't feel Liang Xiao's feelings for him because he didn't have experience. However, after such a long time, no matter how slow his reaction was, he could feel it. He also knew that Liang Xiao liked him. But it was precisely because he knew this that he found it hard to say it. What's the matter? Liang Xiao curled her lips, acting so mysterious. Could it be that she wants to invest in our company? Charlotte shook his head. No, it's... Liang Xiao walked behind Charlotte and suddenly strangled Charlotte's neck with her arm. She pretended to be fierce and said, "Are you going to tell me or not? If you don't speak, I'll strangle you to death." She spoke fiercely and looked frightening, but the strength she exerted in her hands was small. On the contrary, her pair of soft hands were firmly pressed against the back of Charlotte's head, like a strange clamp that wanted to crush Charlotte's head. Hearing this, Charlotte became nervous. He hurriedly said, "Let me go and I'll tell you." Liang Xiao only loosened her grip a little, but did not let go of him. "Hurry up and say it." Charlotte smiled bitterly. "You have to promise me before that you won't hit me or scold me. I'm going to faint. What's going on? Why are you being so mysterious?" Liang Xiao had lost her patience. "Shintu Tianyin asked me to date her." Charlotte made a long story short. Liang Xiao was stunned on the spot. Her heart felt as if it had been pierced by a needle, and it was aching dully. Her eyes also stealthily became misty. Charlotte then explained, "But it's fake." Then, he told the whole story to Liang Xiao. After listening to Charlotte, Liang Xiao's heart relaxed. But she did not say anything else and suddenly strangled Charlotte's neck. This time, she really used all her strength. Charlotte's breathing suddenly became tense. "Are you going to strangle me to death?" Liang Xiao said angrily. "She asked you to do such a favor, and you agreed? She's really shameless. She actually thought of such an idea." Charlotte smiled bitterly. "She's really in trouble. Her grandparents and the Shintu family don't want her to take over the Wanxiang Corporation. They want to kick her out. Shintu Yi and Shintu Tianfeng, one is her uncle, and the other is her cousin. But these two want to kill her. The female assassin in Dongfang Heavy Industry is most likely related to these two. She's actually only famous on the surface. Her real situation is very pitiful." "So you sympathize with her and become her boyfriend?" Liang Xiao's tone was sour. But she let go of Charlotte's neck. "She helped me when I needed help the most. Now that she's in trouble, how can I just stand by and watch? What kind of favor is not good enough for you to help? I'm ignoring you." Liang Xiao turned and left. Charlotte felt uneasy. He got up and held her hand. He smiled and said, "Senior sister, don't be angry. It's not real." Liang Xiao turned around and said in a soft voice, "Even if it's real, what does it have to do with me?" Charlotte couldn't find the words to say. "That's right. Whether it's real or fake, it's his freedom. What does it have to do with Liang Xiao? Are you trying to explain it to me?" Liang Xiao seemed to have reacted. She understood the deeper meaning behind it. Her eyes immediately went straight. She looked at Charlotte's eyes, as if she wanted to see through his heart. Charlotte was also very curious. Why was he so worried about Liang Xiao's feelings? He wanted to explain it to her and even apologize to her? This kind of situation would only happen between couples. "You fool, you should have said it. Say it." Liang Xiao's cheeks were already red. She looked very nervous, agitated, excited, expectant, and anxious. Charlotte's tongue was like a rope that had been tied. Liang Xiao suddenly burrowed into Charlotte's arms. She hooked her arms around his neck and pressed her cherry lips on Charlotte's lip. She had completely lost her patience. It was harder to get a rookie like Charlotte to say those 3 words than to climb Mount Everest barefoot. Instead of wasting time like this, it was better to take the initiative. He was like the most natural ingredient. Only when he was in her stomach would it be considered as a true delicacy. Within a day, Charlotte had already kissed 2 women. However, kissing with Shintu Tianyin was fake. Other than feeling very excited, and having a very strong physiological reaction, he could not feel anything on the spiritual level. But now, when he kissed with Liang Xiao, he felt that her heart was so soft and full of love. He was soon softened by her and immersed in it. He was like a boat anchored in a calm harbor. Liang Xiao's initiative seemed to have awakened another Charlotte. He was not satisfied with a shallow kiss. His tongue took the initiative to pry open Liang Xiao's lips, invaded and tangled with her tongue. The moist tongue, the chaotic sounds, and each other's taste, all of these stimulated the nerves of the two people like stimulants, and the two people gradually lost control. The two people were like two entangled gyroscopes, spinning. The chair next to the desk was knocked over, and the books on the desk also fell to the ground. Liang Jingchuan's ink was also knocked down. The thick black ink flowed down the desk to the floor. The books on the bookshelf were also knocked down and fell to the ground. In this chaos, the clothes on Charlotte's body flew away, and the clothes on Liang Xiao's body also disappeared. The two of them were primitive. One was strong, and his body contained the power of a volcano. The other was gentle and beautiful, and her body contained the water that could nourish everything. The two people finally stopped on the sofa in the study. They looked at each other. The two of them only had eyes for each other and nothing else. "Xiao, give it to me." Charlotte's voice was trembling. He was very excited. Liang Xiao bit her lips. Her face was red, and her eyes were also filled with happiness and excitement. Charlotte's request made her nervous and scared, but she nodded. Her beauty at that moment was breathtaking. Charlotte could not wait to press on. "Xiao, where's dinner?" Liang Jingchuan's voice suddenly came from the living room. Liang Jingchuan's voice was like a cold current, and it instantly froze the two people on the sofa, who had already done 1/3 of their sex. "Xiao?" Liang Jingchuan's voice was a little louder. Only then did Charlotte come back to his senses. He immediately climbed up from Liang Xiao's body. Liang Xiao also hurriedly picked up her clothes to wear. The two of them did not say a word during the whole process, but their cooperation was quite tacit. Seeing Liang Xiao pick up the black lace and quickly put it on her beautiful legs, Charlotte suddenly wanted to hit his head against the wall. Didn't they say they were going to spend the night at the boxing club? Why did Master come back? And at this time, the two of them put on their clothes very quickly, but after putting on their clothes, they suddenly found that the study was in a mess, as if it had been searched. "What should we do?" Liang Xiao was so anxious that she stamped her feet, but her voice was very soft. Only she and Charlotte could hear it. Charlotte spread out his hands. "I don't know either. I'm going to die, I'm going to die, it's all your fault. My dad is very smart, he will see through it. What should we do?" Liang Xiao glared at Charlotte angrily and flirtatiously. Charlotte suddenly had an idea. "I got it. You thought of a way." Charlotte moved closer to Liang Xiao's ear and whispered, "Xiao?" Liang Jingchun called again. "Dad. We're in the study." Liang Xiao braced herself and said, "Lazy is here too." Liang Jingchun walked to the study and reached out to open the door. As soon as the door opened, inside the study, Liang Xiao suddenly punched Charlotte's lower abdomen. Charlotte reached out to block and punched back. In the blink of an eye, the two were entangled in a fierce fight. Liang Jingchun stared dumbfoundedly at Charlotte, whose face was flushed red, and Liang Xiao, whose face was red. There were books and ink all over the floor. He was stunned for a long time before he said, "You two, are you serious?" Liang Xiao and Xia Lei each sent out a kick, and the two long legs collided with each other before the two of them separated. Charlotte wiped his sweat and said with a smile, "Master, you're back? You haven't eaten yet, right? I'll go heat it up for you. I made a lot of your favorite dishes today." After saying that, he lowered his head and slipped away. "Wait!" Liang Jingchun called out to Charlotte, who wanted to slip away. Charlotte suddenly became nervous. He braced himself and said, "Master, is there anything else? What are you doing?" Liang Jingchun seemed to smell a trace of conspiracy. Liang Xiao hurriedly said, Dad, Lei and I are learning from each other. Didn't we just knock over a bottle of ink? I'll buy a new bottle for you tomorrow. Really? Liang Jingchun suspiciously looked at Charlotte and then looked at Liang Xiao. Liang Xiao said, Why would I lie to you? Do we look like we're quarreling? Liang Jingchun shook his head and said, No. Liang Xiao said, Then it's fine. We're very good and we won't quarrel. I just think that Lei has neglected to practice during this time, so I want to help him practice. Liang Jingchun nodded and said, You should practice more, but next time you're not allowed to fight in my study. Charlotte and Liang Jingchun nodded together. Master, I'll go heat up the dishes for you. Charlotte went to the study again. Wait. Liang Jingchun stopped Charlotte again. Charlotte was about to cry and said, Master, do you have any other orders? Liang Jingchun pointed at Charlotte's crotch and said, Your zipper is open. Charlotte, seeing Charlotte's open zipper, Liang Xiao seemed to think of something. She was so shy that she wanted to find a hole to hide in. Chapter 171. Dad, let's go. Liang Xiao said to Liang Jingchun, who was getting off the car in front of the boxing gym, her face brimming with a happy smile. Be careful on the road. Liang Jingchun warned. Got it, Dad. Liang Xiao waved to Liang Jingchun. Liang Jingchun walked into the boxing gym. Liang Xiao suddenly hit Charlotte and said coquettishly, It's all your fault, I didn't sleep last night. I didn't sleep either. Charlotte said. Did you want to do something bad? Liang Xiao mischievously said. Charlotte's face turned red. What happened in the study last night, although it wasn't 100%, it was at least 30%. The heavens had pity on him. He was a virgin who had never touched a woman. It was his first time doing that kind of thing, and he actually only did a third of it. How could that feel good? You really did want to do something bad, you're so bad. Liang Xiao hit Charlotte again. She didn't hurt, but Charlotte pretended to cry out in pain. Does it hurt? Liang Xiao became nervous again. Charlotte laughed. You can't even bear to hit me, so how could I hurt? You lied to me, you lied to me. You bullied me last night, and now you're bullying me again. Liang Xiao's two pink fists shot out, raining down on Charlotte's body. But with these kind of fists, even if they were to be punched 1,000 times, it wouldn't hurt a single hair on Charlotte's body. Charlotte grabbed Liang Xiao's hand and quietly looked at her. He suddenly realized that she was very beautiful. Her face, her eyes, her small mouth, everything about her was the most beautiful. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. This sentence was the most appropriate to describe his current feelings. Liang Xiao also inexplicably quietened down. She also quietly looked at Charlotte, her two big black eyes unblinking. She also felt that he was very handsome. His face, his eyes, and his lips were all sexy. Before yesterday, she and he were still in a relationship of senior sister and junior brother. However, when they lost control in the study, the two of them met each other with sincerity and almost had a good time together. The layer of window paper between the two of them was pierced. The two of them could no longer return to the simple relationship of senior sister and junior brother. It was replaced by a new relationship, lovers. Yes, lover. In her heart, Charlotte was her lover, a good man who was worth entrusting her life to. Just like that, they quietly stared at each other. Suddenly, the two of them leaned toward each other and kissed each other's lip. Then, the two of them fell into the trap again and used their tongues. It was as if the other party's tongue was the most wonderful dessert in the world, and it was the most comfortable and satisfying to lick it. DDD. The car behind them suddenly honked its horn. The two of them hurriedly separated. Liang Xiao hurriedly started the car and drove forward. The driver behind poked his head out of the window and scolded, "Damn, are you going to have car sex so early in the morning? Go to a hotel and do it on the road. Are you kidding me?" In the red BMW M6, Liang Xiao blushed and stuck out her tongue. The guy behind us must have car rage. Yes, he has car rage. We won't argue with him. Charlotte's face was also red, and his crotch was also high. Liang Xiao glanced at it and giggled. You know, last night Charlotte said nervously, I'm sorry, I was too impulsive last night. I shouldn't have done that. Now you know you're wrong? Liang Xiao smiled happily. Well, seeing that you are so pitiful, I forgive you. Charlotte couldn't help but look at his pants again. He suddenly felt that it was indeed quite pitiful. Liang Xiao glanced at Charlotte's crotch again. Her cheeks were flushed and her voice was also low. We are both in our 20s. It's normal to be impulsive. Well, I actually left the door open for you last night. If you feel uncomfortable, why didn't you come over? Charlotte, she was such a gentle and considerate woman. She even thought of this, but he foolishly used his hands to solve the problem. Hearing her say such considerate words at this time, he was so regretful that he wanted to hit his head against the windshield. Liang Xiao stretched out her hand and held Charlotte's hand. She said gently, Lazy, when are you going to tell my dad about us? I want to be with you openly. I don't want to be with you secretly. Charlotte's heart softened. When I help Shintu Tianyin solve her problem, we'll tell Master, okay? Are you still going to be Shintu Tianyin's boyfriend? Liang Xiao's cherry lips suddenly curled up, and she looked unhappy. No woman liked their boyfriend dating other women, even if it was fake. Women in love were the most jealous, and Liang Xiao was no exception. Her heart was full of Charlotte, and there was no room for other men. Of course, she didn't want Charlotte to have another woman in his heart. Xiao, she and I are fake. It's not real. I'm just helping her. Charlotte could feel her jealousy and knew that this kind of thing was unfair to her, but he still had to go because Shintu Tianyin needed his help, and he had promised her. Liang Xiao was silent for a long time before saying, All right, but you're not allowed to hold hands, kiss, or go to bed. Charlotte, how long are you going to pretend for? Liang Xiao asked again. Charlotte said, I don't know. Probably until Shintu Yi and Shintu Tianfeng can't help but make a move. I think she wants to get evidence and get rid of the family that's against her. After hearing what you said, I feel that she's actually quite pitiful. Her grandparents, and her relatives from the same clan are all scheming against her. She's quite lonely. Liang Xiao's heart was moved. Charlotte held her hand up and very gently kissed it. He said with a smile, Our Xiao is very righteous. You must be the best gift that the heavens have given me. Just you and I are enough. Sweet talk, I don't want to listen to it. Liang Xiao said this, but her face was full of smiles. This was only her first day in a relationship with Charlotte, but she already felt so good. Her heart was as sweet as drinking honey. Charlotte said seriously, I promise to help Shintu Tianyin because of my own considerations. Networking is very important in business. If we can build a good relationship with the Wanxiang Corporation, our company will benefit no matter what. And I support you. Go. Hee. Charlotte laughed. Our Xiao is still the best. Liang Xiao suddenly stared at Charlotte. You're not allowed to hold hands, kiss, or go to bed. I'll check your body every day when you come back. If I smell her scent on your body, I'll make you kneel on a washboard. Xia Lei's forehead was already filled with a few more black lines. Does she have a washboard at home? As they chatted and laughed, the red BMW M6 arrived at the Lima Manufacturing Company. A Rolls-Royce Phantom was parked on the side of the road in front of the factory. Shintu Tianyin was already waiting for Charlotte. Liang Xiao drove her BMW M6 directly to the front of the Rolls-Royce Phantom, then opened the door and got out. At this time, Fu Mingmei walked out of the driver's seat and greeted Charlotte with a smile. Brother-in-law, good morning. Charlotte subconsciously glanced at Liang Xiao, not daring to respond. Liang Xiao suddenly took Charlotte's hand and came to the side of the Rolls-Royce Phantom with him. Fu Mingmei looked at Liang Xiao, who was holding Charlotte's arm, in surprise. She obviously didn't understand what was going on. At this time, the rear window of the Rolls-Royce Phantom rolled down, and Shintu Tianyin, whose face was so beautiful that it was out of this world, poked her head out of the window. She looked at Liang Xiao, who was holding Charlotte's arm, and her eyes flickered slightly, but she didn't show it on her face. She just greeted her lightly, "Hello, Miss Liang." "Hello, Miss Shintu." Liang Xiao also greeted her. That was all the two women said, and they didn't talk anymore. "You look at me, I look at you." It was very strange, and there seemed to be a little smoke in the air. Charlotte was stuck in the middle, and he had a headache. He wanted to end this awkward meeting, but he didn't know what to say. Shintu Tianyin pursed her lips and smiled. "Well, get in the car. We're going to pick out some gifts for Grandpa and Grandma. It's your first time going to our house, so it's not good to go empty-handed." Charlotte was about to agree to get in the car, but Liang Xiao stood in front of him. "Your tie is a little crooked. Let me fix it for you." Liang Xiao gently fixed Charlotte's tie. Actually, Charlotte's tie wasn't crooked at all. Fu Mingmei frowned immediately. She seemed like she was about to flare up, but Shintu Tianyin stopped her with a look. Liang Xiao fixed Charlotte's tie, and suddenly kissed Charlotte's lips. "Go. Remember what I told you." Charlotte smiled bitterly and nodded. He knew what she was referring to. No holding hands, no kissing, and definitely not going to bed. However, other than the last one, he had violated both the holding hands and kissing. Should he confess to her? Charlotte got in the car. Liang Xiao patted the car door again and said to Shintu Tianyin, "My lazy is in your hands. Take good care of him." Our lazy. This was an obvious declaration of sovereignty. Strangely, after hearing Liang Xiao's words, Shintu Tianyin's face was still very calm. She nodded lightly. "Don't worry." Then she said, "Mingmei, drive." Fu Mingmei glared at Liang Xiao and drove away from Lima Manufacturing Company. Liang Xiao watched the Rolls-Royce Phantom drive away until she couldn't see it anymore. Then she said, "Will Charlotte be disgusted by what I did? But how can there be such a thing? He's obviously my boyfriend, but he wants to be her boyfriend, and he even came to pick her up. Isn't this bullying my kindness?" In the Rolls-Royce Phantom. "Does Miss Liang know about it?" Shintu Tianyin said aloud. Charlotte said, "Well, there are some things that I have to tell her. But don't worry, I trust her. She won't tell anyone." Fu Mingmei interrupted and said, "She won't tell anyone? She kissed you in public. If it was seen by Shintu Tianfeng or Shintu Yi, wouldn't it be exposed?" Mingmei. Shintu Tianyin's tone was somewhat displeased. Fu Mingmei shrugged. "Okay, I'll shut up. I'll drive." Shintu Tianyin looked at Charlotte. When did you start?" I don't remember." This question really stumped Charlotte. It officially started last night, and the location was also in his master Liang Zhengchuan's study. But that was the result of the incident. He really didn't know the cause and process of the incident. He didn't know when Liang Xiao got into his heart and hid it. Last night, he was provoked by her, and he suddenly exploded and lost control. "Let's go pick a gift." Shintu Tianyin changed the topic. Charlotte secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Then there was silence in the car. No one knew what the atmosphere was. Chapter 172. The famous Shin Tu family clan was actually in a village called Yulin. It was surrounded by mountains and water, with green tiles and white walls. It was as tranquil as a painting. Before coming here, Charlotte could not believe that the Shin Tu family clan was in a village. In his imagination, Shintu Tianyin's home should be in the best area in the city. It would be either a villa or an entire floor. However, her home was in a village, and it only looked elegant. It was unbelievable. However, Shintu Tianyin's home was very big. It covered more than 10 acres, and just the main house had 3 entrances. There were also gardens in the front and back, as well as pavilions in the garden. It was a Suzhou garden-like style. Fu Mingmei stopped the car at the door, and Shintu Tianyin and Charlotte alighted. Shintu Tianyin led Charlotte inside as they chatted. Most of the people from the Shintu family clan live here. My father is a very traditional person. He built the Wanxiang Corporation from scratch, so he bought the land and built this huge mansion, allowing all the people from the Shintu family to move in. The Shintu family clan members also work in the Wanxiang Corporation. My father does not like to hold meetings in the company's conference room, so he would sometimes gather the Shintu family members in this mansion to discuss matters. Before my father's accident, this family was actually very harmonious and lively, but after my father's stroke, it changed. Shintu Tianyin said sadly. Charlotte said, "It's all about money. Your father single-handedly built the Wanxiang Corporation. When your father was healthy, your Shintu family members followed your father's lead. However, once your father collapsed, they had other thoughts in their hearts. They thought that the Wanxiang Corporation was theirs. In the end, it's all about money." Shintu Tianyin sighed. They are bullying me for not having a man in my family. If I had a man as powerful as you by my side, would they dare to bully me so openly? Charlotte smiled and said, "What's so powerful about me? In just one night, Liang Xiao has become your boyfriend. Isn't that amazing?" Shintu Tianyin said. Charlotte smiled awkwardly and didn't say anything. Shintuyi and a woman came out of the central room to welcome them. The woman was in her early 50s. Her skin was well maintained. She was fair and plump, giving people the impression that she was rich. Shintu Tianyin whispered, "The woman beside my second uncle is his wife, Wang Fang. Although she was plump and broad, she was very narrow-minded and full of wicked ideas. My second uncle is very afraid of her and listens to everything she says." Charlotte responded softly, indicating that he had heard her. "Tianyin, why are you so late?" Shintui said with some dissatisfaction. The old man has been waiting impatiently. As soon as Shintu Tianyin came back, Shintui used the Shintu family's old man, Shintu Weiye, to pressure her. Before Shintu Tianyin could speak, Wang Fang, who was next to Shintu Yi, interrupted and said, "Our Tianyin's mind is probably on this gentleman, right? This gentleman, what's your name?" She must have known Charlotte's name, but she did it on purpose. She seemed to be using this method to express her attitude to Charlotte. "Who do you think you are, to dare to enter the Shintu family's door?" Charlotte's brows slightly wrinkled. He had already imagined that this visit would be very difficult, but he didn't expect that the Shintu couple's faces would be so clear on the battlefield. Wang Fang said again, "Tianyin, why isn't your boyfriend saying anything?" Shintu Tianyin lightly said, "Second aunt, what do you want to say? Is he mute?" Before the word mute could be said, Wang Fang smiled again. "This gentleman is really shy." Only then did Charlotte say, "My name is Charlotte. Hello, auntie." Although he wanted to kick her in the face, she was, after all, Shintu Tianyin's second aunt. He pretended to be Shintu Tianyin's boyfriend, so she was also his elder. It was the first time they met, so it was not good to fall out with her. Wang Fang carefully looked at Charlotte and said, "He really is a handsome guy, but unfortunately—" Charlotte endured the anger in his heart and lightly said, "Unfortunately what?" Wang Fang laughed. "I heard that you are a high school student, right? I think it would be good if you were more educated. I don't mean anything else." Shintu Tianyin's face suddenly became gloomy, and he was about to explode at any time. Shintui also said, "Wife, you are good at everything, but you can't control your mouth. If you don't know how to speak, then don't say a few words. You see, you have made Tianyin unhappy." Wang Fang said, "There's nothing wrong with me, but I need the approval of the old man. It can't be that anyone can enter our Shintu family's door, right? What is our family's Tianyin's identity? She is the chairman of our Wanxiang group. It is a big deal for her to find a partner. As her aunt, how can I not help her?" Charlotte could see that Shintu Yi and his wife only had one purpose, and that was to drive him away, so that Shintu Tianyin could remain single. This was the most beneficial for them. They didn't dare to go overboard in front of Shintu Tianyin, but for an outsider like him, there were no taboos. He could do whatever he wanted. To be honest, Charlotte really wanted to turn around and leave, because he felt disgusted when he saw Shintu Yi and Wang Fang, not to mention that he would be meeting more people from the Shintu family later. However, when he saw Shintu Tianyin standing alone beside him, his heart softened. Since he was here, he would help her to the end. Charlotte smiled. "Auntie, it's not like you are looking for a son-in-law. Why are you so picky?" "I am indeed only a high school student, but Tianyin likes high school students. I asked her once, and I said, 'Why don't you find a university student?' She told me that there are a lot of university students and PhD students in her company, but she took a fancy to me. This is called fate. Do you understand?" "Oh, you." Wang Fang didn't expect that Charlotte would dare to quarrel with her here. Her face immediately turned green with anger. Shintu Tianyin, on the other hand, burst into laughter. "Darling, let's go. Take me to see your grandfather." Charlotte extended his hand again. "Give me the gifts. I'll carry them." Shintu Tianyin responded, and handed a big bag of gifts to Charlotte. When Charlotte carried the 2 big bags of gifts, she held onto Charlotte's arm, looking very affectionate. Then, the two ignored Shintu Yi and Wang Fang, and bypassed them to enter the central room. Shintu Yi and Wang Fang looked at each other. Their faces were ugly to the extreme. "This kid isn't someone who has recuperated. He's a thorn," Wang Fang said. Shintu Yi said in a low voice, "This kid isn't simple. Even Huang Yihu was defeated by him. He's a powerful person." Wang Fang said hatefully, "I don't care what kind of person he is. In short, I will definitely not allow such a person to enter our Shintu family. In a moment we must get everyone to join forces to chase this kid away. He dares to talk to me like this the first time we meet. If that woman marries him, what will happen to us? We'll just wait for our tears to soak our rice." This Wang Fang's eyesight and intuition were still very powerful. Indeed, with Charlotte's ability and methods, as well as his personality, if Shintu Tianyin really married him, would he tolerate the Shintu family bullying his wife? He would crush them. There was no one in the central room. Shintu Tianyin led Charlotte through a side door and entered the inner courtyard. There was a large courtyard paved with limestone in the inner courtyard. A white-haired old man was sitting on a chair and basking in the sun. Beside him, a large group of people were standing there chatting. Shintu Tianfeng was also among them. Beside him stood a young woman in her 20s. The woman was very beautiful. She had a big belly and looked like she was about to give birth. Shintu Tianyin then said to Charlotte, "The woman beside Shintu Tianfeng is called Tan Jingjing. She's his wife. She's 8 months pregnant, and it's said that it's a son. My grandfather likes her very much, and is looking forward to the birth of his great-grandson." Charlotte gave a bitter smile. "Your grandfather's generation has a very strong concept of carrying on the family line. You should also be more open-minded. There are some things that can't be corrected." Shintu Tianyin nodded his head. "Let's go. I'll bring you to see my grandfather." The two of them walked toward Shintu Weiye, who was sitting in the courtyard. The gazes of everyone in the Shintu family were gathered on Charlotte's body. There was no kindness in the eyes of the Shintu family members. They had already seen Charlotte as an enemy that would affect their current superior lives. Shintu Weiye's gaze also landed on Charlotte. His eyes actually contained a hint of anger. Shintu Tianyin braced himself and said, "Grandfather, I'm back. Let me introduce you. This is Charlotte, my boyfriend." Charlotte then said, "Hello grandfather, I've bought you a gift." Before Charlotte could finish, Shintu Weiye coldly snorted, "Who are you calling grandfather? If it's not that relationship, don't randomly call me grandfather." Behind Shintu Weiye, a large group of Shintu family members revealed a gloating smile. Especially Shintu Tianfeng. Although his smile was not the most obvious, he was undoubtedly the happiest one. Charlotte did not get angry and said with a smile, "Did I call you wrongly? Then what should I call you? Can I call you old master?" Shintu Tianfeng's wife, Tan Jingjing, muttered, "Such thick skin." Shintu Tianin looked at Tan Jingjing, who then looked away and shut her mouth. Charlotte placed the gift next to Shintu Wei's chair, but Shintu Wei did not even look at it. "Tianin, when did the two of you get together?" Shintu Wei stared straight at Shintu Tianin, not concealing the dissatisfaction in his heart at all. Shintu Tianin said, "We've been together for a few months. I wasn't sure in the past, but now I'm sure that he's the person I've been looking for in this lifetime. That's why I brought him back to meet you and your uncles and aunts. In the future, we'll be a family, and we'll have to meet sooner or later." "A family?" Shintu Wei frowned. Shintu Tianin braced himself and said, "Yes, we plan to get married during the spring festival." "I'm not dead yet." Shintu Wei's tone was very aggressive. "Why didn't you ask me about such a big matter? Why didn't you ask your uncles and aunts? Your marriage is a big matter for our Shintu family. Can you make the decision by yourself?" Shintu Tianin gently bit her lip. Her heart was definitely broken at the moment, but she was a very strong-willed woman. She endured and did not let her tears flow out. Charlotte saw this and felt sad for her in his heart. At this moment, Shintu Yi and Wang Fang came out of the central room. "Dad, this kid gave me a bad look the moment he came in," Wang Fang complained as soon as she came in. "I was thinking for Tianin's sake. I said that he's a high school student, and he said that I'm not looking for a son-in-law. Dad, tell me, how can such a person become our Tianin's man?" The people of Shintu family immediately started discussing. "How can it be such a person? Yeah, why would Tianin find such a man? He's too uncultured. If Tianin marries such a disrespectful person, can we still stay in the Wanxiang Corporation in the future?" Everyone was talking at once. Actually, all of them could be summed up in one word: money. Chapter 173. Of course, there were also some who cleverly remained neutral, only watching and not saying anything. Whether it was Shintu Tianin continuing to be in charge of the Wanxiang Corporation, or Shintu Tianfeng replacing Shintu Tianin, they wanted to wait for the situation to become clear before taking side. Now, let Shintu Wei and Shintu Yi's family fight with Shintu Tianin. While others were discussing and watching, Charlotte was also observing. He observed the expressions of these Shintu family members, read their lips, and knew their thoughts like the back of his hand. Shintu Wei was just worrying about not being able to find a topic to vent his anger on Charlotte, when Wang Fang came. After Wang Fang finished complaining, he stared at Charlotte and said unhappily, "Is that what you said?" "Yes." Charlotte admitted it, not seeming to mind at all. "That's what I said." "So what if I'm a high school student? Is there a law in the country that says high school students can't fall in love or get married? Marriage is a matter between two people. If someone interferes, what's their motive?" He laid special emphasis on the word motive. Among the Shintu family members present, the others were just joining in the fun, watching the situation, and then being a fence-sitter. However, Shintu Wei and Shintu Yi's family had the most important motive. Shintu Wei said angrily, "What's wrong with you? You and Tianin are together, so Wang Fang is your elder. How can you speak to your elder like that?" Charlotte smiled. "She is indeed my elder, but I didn't say anything. I just said that she wasn't looking for a son-in-law. She really didn't look for a son-in-law, right?" "You." Shintu Wei was so angry that his beard trembled. Shintu Tianfeng hurriedly went forward and patted Shintu Wei's back. "Grandpa, don't be angry. It's not worth getting angry over such a thing. You have to take care of your health." Shintu Tianfeng's woman, Tan Jingjing, added oil to the fire. "That's right, Grandpa, there are some people who can't wait for something to happen to you. You have to take care of your health." You still have to see your great-grandson being born. Who are you talking about? Shintu Tianyin glared at Tan Jingjing with anger in his eyes. I didn't say who. Tan Jingjing was a little timid and didn't dare to look at Shintu Tianyin's eyes. Charlotte said, I'm not good with words. If I said something wrong, please forgive me. Then he said to Shintu Tianyin, My dear, take me to see uncle. Okay, I'll take you there. Shintu Tianyin then said to Shintu Weiye, Grandpa, I'll take Charlotte to see my father. I'll come back to accompany you later. Shintu Weiye said, Take him there and then come over. I have something to talk to you about. Okay. Shintu Tianyin replied, and then he brought Xia Lei away from the dam in the rear courtyard and walked towards a row of houses. On the way, Charlotte said apologetically, I'm sorry, I made your grandpa angry just now. I just can't bear to see them force you like this. When I get angry, I can't help but want to get angry. Shintu Tianyin pursed her lips and smiled. Why are you apologizing to me? My grandpa has never been happy to see me. It's useless for you to please him. Charlotte said, Yes, even if I pretend to be obedient and kowtow to him, he won't be happy. But if you were a boy and I was a girl, and you took me home and said that I was your girlfriend, he would definitely be very happy. Shintu Tianyin seemed to be imagining that scene, then she smiled again. If you were a girl, then you must be a fickle woman. Charlotte was stunned for a moment. What do you mean? How can I be a fickle woman? Shintu Tianyin said, If I'm a boy, then Liang Xiao is also a boy. Just last night you had a relationship with Liang Xiao. If that's not fickle, then what is? Why does she always remember this? Charlotte smiled bitterly. We've been together for almost half a year. I went to her father's boxing club to learn Wing Chun, and then we met. Later, she helped me take care of the company. Her father also accepted me as an official disciple and taught me the real Wing Chun that was passed down from her ancestors. We went to work together, ate together, and practiced together. Well, it's called love grows with time. How can it be said that it was just one night? His relationship with Liang Xiao did develop little by little. At work, in life, and when he practiced, he spent a lot of time with Liang Xiao, joking with her, playing with her, giving her massages, and so on. These were all factors that could easily produce feelings. Moreover, as far as Liang Xiao was concerned, her face was beautiful, her figure was also hot, especially her pair of beautiful legs that were even more beautiful than Lin Jiling's legs. Coupled with her good temperament and character, what else could he be picky about? When others looked for a girlfriend, they would also consider work and family, but he didn't care about this. He just looked for a beautiful one that he liked. Beautiful and liked were his only criteria. The corner of Shintu Tianyin's mouth slightly tilted up. Is her kung fu very powerful? In Charlotte's mind suddenly appeared the fierce appearance of Liang Xiao when he fought with her. The powerful legs, the white and tender fist, and the pair of big breasts that trembled endlessly. His mouth couldn't help but reveal a smile. After all, she is the true disciple of my master. She is very powerful. I can now tie with her. After all, she has been practicing since she was a child. When you went back and told her yesterday, didn't she get angry? She was a little angry at first, but I convinced her. She is a reasonable woman. Shintu Tianyin said, I guess it was probably because you told her about us, then she got angry, you went to coax her, and then you couldn't help but be together, right? Charlotte couldn't help but look at Shintu Tianyin. He didn't say anything, but he was very surprised in his heart. She could actually guess such a thing. Then you two had a relationship, right? Charlotte's head was a little big, and he said awkwardly, What are you talking about? You know what I'm talking about. Shintu Tianyin said. We haven't reached that step yet, but... Charlotte suddenly reacted, Why are you asking this? Shintu Tianyin seemed to have gotten the answer she wanted. She smiled and said, Nothing, just casually chatting. Then, she muttered in a voice that even she couldn't hear, "I'm afraid you're afraid that I'll snatch it away. Do you think I can't see through your mind? Cunning." "What did you say?" "Nothing. Oh, we're here. Come with me," Shintu Tianyin said. Charlotte discovered that as they chatted, they unknowingly crossed the backyard and came to the back garden. There was a small garden in the garden, with an antique wall, a moon-shaped arch, and a unique tile-roofed house behind it. The tile-roofed house was made of wood, and the walls and pillars were made of high-quality mahogany. It was antique and elegant. Fu Chuanfu was already waiting in front of a door. He had his hands behind his back and his face was expressionless. When Shintu Tianyin led Charlotte over, he turned around and opened the door behind him. After entering the house, Charlotte saw Shintu Tianyin's father, Shintu Ren, lying on the bed. Shintu Ren was only in his 50s, but he looked like an old man in his 60s. His face was pale, and his body was very thin. He was lying on the bed, not moving at all. His breathing was very weak, and it was almost impossible to see the rise and fall of his chest. This was a very bad state and he might stop breathing at any time. "Dad, I'm here to see you." Touching the scene, Shintu Tianyin's voice was full of sadness, and his eyes were filled with tears. Charlotte was also affected. He said sadly, "Uncle, I'm Tianyin's boyfriend. I'm here to see you." Shintu Ren did not respond at all. Shintu Tianyin said gloomily, "My father is only relying on the nutrient solution to maintain his life, but his situation is getting worse and worse. I really don't know how long he can hold on." Charlotte said, "Why not continue the treatment?" Shintu Tianyin said, "I've found the best doctors in the world, and my father has also been to the best hospitals in the world, but the conclusion they gave is the same. There is no cure. I have accepted this fact, and now I only hope that a miracle will happen." Charlotte comforted him, "Don't be sad, your father will get better." "Well, you talk to my father. I'll talk to my grandfather. I'd like to see what he wants to talk to me about when I take you home." Shintu Tianyin left Shintu Ren's room. Fu Chuanfu said, "Mr. Xia, I'll be cutting flowers outside. If there's anything, just call me." "Okay, Uncle Fu, you go ahead with your work." "I'll talk to Uncle," Charlotte said. After Fu Chuanfu left, only Charlotte and Shintu Ren were left in the room. One was lying down, unable to move, and the other was idle and bored. Stroke is a disease in which the blood circulation of the brain is affected by the blockage or rupture of the blood vessels in the brain. If the disease is serious, the patient will die quickly. If the disease is not serious, the patient can survive, but there will be sequelae such as paralysis. In that case, he is not dead, and Shintu Ren's stroke is actually not serious. I wonder what's going on in his head right now. Such a thought suddenly came to Charlotte's mind. Just after this thought came to mind, his left eye twitched slightly and locked on to Shintu Ren's head. He was not interested in chatting with a person who had been paralyzed in bed for 3 years. That was a waste of time. Instead of talking nonsense, it was better to do something practical. He had been studying medicine for a period of time, and his research on acupuncture was even more mature. In this kind of situation, he definitely wanted to try his skills. The internal situation of Shintu Ren's brain was presented to Charlotte's left eye at a glance. The vision of his left eye was like a scalpel, cutting off layer after layer, and gradually examining the inside of Shintu Ren's brain. This kind of ability, even the world's most advanced nuclear magnetic resonance detector could not compare. A few minutes later, Charlotte ended his X-ray vision of Shintu Ren. He also knew the internal situation of Shintu Ren's brain like the back of his hand. There were 2 parts of Shintu Ren's brain that could not be removed by surgery. However, the amount of blood accumulated was not a lot, and it did not affect his life. Otherwise, he would have died a long time ago. In addition, he found that some of the blood vessels in Shintu Ren's head were blocked, and the blockage of these blood vessels reduced the blood supply to the brain. The brain was the center of life, and without enough blood to provide nutrients, it could not function normally. The brain was in a dormant state, so could his body organs still function normally? Obviously not. If I can use silver needles to unblock his blocked blood vessels, will he wake up? Charlotte had a bold idea in his mind. Chapter 174. In the Shinto family clan's ancestral hall, Shinto Tianin was facing Shinto Weya and a large number of Shinto family members. She had seen these people's faces since she was young. They were very familiar, but at this moment she felt very unfamiliar. "Grandpa, what do you want to talk to me about?" Shinto Tianin did not want to stay here for another minute. Shinto Weya looked unhappy. "Do you really plan on marrying that kid?" Shinto Tianin said, "We love each other, and he is very outstanding. Why wouldn't I marry him?" "Outstanding?" Wang Fong interrupted and said, "That kid is just a high school student. What's so outstanding about him?" Shinto Tianin said, "He started from scratch, and now he is the boss of Lima Manufacturing Company. Even the Shenzhou Industrial Group wants to cooperate with him, asking him to solve problems they can't solve. If that's not outstanding, then what is? In addition, he is indeed a high school student, but he knows a few foreign languages. Second aunt, I remember you are also a university student. How many foreign languages do you know?" Wang Fong was ashamed and could not say a word. She was a university student who had learned English, but she did not even have the courage to say hello to the British and Americans. Shinto Tianin continued, "Charlotte is an authentic Wing Chun descendant. He knows real kung fu. I feel very safe when I am with him. If you are not satisfied with such an outstanding person, then find me someone better than him." The people in the room were speechless. Shinto Tianin said again, "Charlotte is the best mechanic in the country. Not only that, he is also an excellent electrical engineer. Yesterday, he saw our blueprints and exposed the scam of a German engineer. He saved our Wanxiang group 200 million. Can you still say that such a person is not outstanding?" The people in the room were still speechless. "Actually, when I am with Charlotte, other than having more money than him, what else do I have? I know I am not as good as him, let alone others." Shinto Tianin glanced at Wang Fong. Although she didn't say Wang Fong's name, she was talking about Wang Fong. Wang Fong's face turned red. "All right, even if he's outstanding and worthy of you, he doesn't pass the test of temper and character. He's so hot-tempered, if you marry him, you'll suffer. Also, he has such a strong personality. If you listen to him in the future, where will our Shin Tu family put our face?" Shin Tu chimed in, "That's right. You are a woman of our Shin Tu family, and also the chairman of our Wanxiang group. If a man were to ride on top of you, where would the old man and us put our faces?" Shinto Weya stared at Shinto Tianin. This seemed to be what he wanted to say, and he was waiting for Shinto Tianin's answer. Shinto Tianin was silent for a moment, then swept his gaze across the crowd. "I don't think it's about where to put your face, but where to put your money, right?" "You!" Shinto Weya was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He raised the walking stick in his hand, as if he wanted to hit Shinto Tianin, but Shinto Tianin didn't even blink. For some reason, he didn't dare to hit him. Taking advantage of one's seniority was selling one's face, one's identity. If he were to tear his face apart, how could he sell it? Shinto Tianfeng then patted Shinto Weya's back and pretended to advise, "Grandfather, Tianin also has her own plans. Don't be angry." Tianin quickly apologized to grandfather. "He's already so old, being angry is bad for his body." "I'm sorry, grandfather." Shinto Tianin apologized. Shinto Tianfeng then said to Shinto Weya, "Grandfather, Tianin has already apologized to you, don't be angry. We're all family, why make things so tense?" Only then did Shinto Weya put away his walking stick. Shinto Tianin said, "Grandfather, Charlotte and I are going to get married during the spring festival. I decide my love. Who I like, who I want to spend the rest of my life with, these are my own matters. You don't have to worry about it. Good. Good. Shinto Weya angrily said. You don't have this grandfather in your eyes anymore, do you? Shinto Tianin calmly said. Me getting married and you being my grandfather, these are two different things. Can these two things be put together as a reason for me not to get married? You, Shinto Weya was furious on the spot. Speaking so bluntly, Shinto Tianin had clearly set up a battlefield. In the past, she didn't have such an attitude in front of Shinto Weya. Usually, she would go along with Shinto Weya's wishes. When Shinto Weya scolded her, or even scolded her, she would endure it and remain silent. But today, after bringing Charlotte home, she seemed to have changed into a different person. On the side, Shinto Yi touched Wang Feng with the back of his hand. Wang Feng understood and said, Yo, did you see that? In the past, our family's Tianin was very obedient. She never talked back in front of the old man. But after bringing that kid back today, she's different. She even dares to talk back to the old man. Tianin, I'm not talking about you. What I mean is, it must be that kid who taught you. You're already like this when you're not married. If you're married and you give birth to his child, can he still tolerate us Shinto family members? At that time, I'm afraid the Wanxiang Corporation will have to change its surname to Xia, right? Would there still be anything left for us? At that time, I'm afraid we'll have to pack up and leave the Wanxiang Corporation. In the ancestral hall, the Shinto family members were discussing. Xia Lei's appearance was like a ferocious wolf that had barged into their sheep pen. He had already threatened their vital interests. Shinto Weya coughed, and the Shinto family members immediately quietened down. Shinto Weya said, Tianin, you can't marry that kid. Shinto Tianin said, Grandpa, we're already living together. I'm already his woman. I won't marry anyone other than him. Grandpa, I can follow your wishes on other matters, but not on this matter. This is my life's matter. I have to make my own decisions. All right then, hand the Wanxiang Corporation over to Tianfeng to manage. Shinto Weya said, if you hand the Wanxiang Corporation over to Tianfeng, I won't stop you from marrying whoever you want. Shinto Weya couldn't help but say it. In the past, he was just hinting and beating around the bush. But once Charlotte came, he couldn't hold it in anymore. Love and career, this was the choice he threw to Shinto Tianin. The ancestral hall was silent. This was a very critical moment. The Shinto family members were very nervous. Especially Shinto Yi's family, they were more excited than anyone else. Shinto Tianin was about to speak when a head popped in from the door. It was Charlotte's head. Everyone's eyes gathered on Charlotte. Shinto Yi's family wanted to rush up and trample on him. At such a critical moment, why was he still haunting them? Charlotte smiled and said, Meeting? I'm sorry, I want to talk to Tianin. I'll only take a minute. Shinto Weya suddenly roared, It's all because of you. Get out of here. You're not welcome here. Charlotte wasn't angry at all. He still had a ruffian smile on his face. Grandpa, calm down. You're so old. It's not good for your health to be angry. I'll tell you the truth. I'm living with Tianin and she's pregnant with my child. How can you bear to separate our family? Everyone in the room was petrified, including Shinto Tianin. She just said that she was living with Charlotte, but Charlotte was even more exaggerated. He actually said that she was pregnant with his child. It was somewhat inexplicable. Although there was no pregnancy, Shinto Tianin's cheeks turned red. After a moment of silence, there was another round of whispering. How could this be? Tianin is a woman of our Shinto family and the chairman of the Wanxiang group. How could she be pregnant with that kid's child? I really couldn't tell that Tianin was such a woman. Don't you understand now? This kid is clearly scheming against the Wanxiang group. He has the child in Tianin's belly as his trump card. He doesn't even care about the old man. Yeah, this kid is really amazing. He's so arrogant even before getting married. Tianyin can't control him. If he really gets married and they have a child, won't we be driven out of the Wanxiang group by him? Shintu Weiye raised the walking stick in his hand. The ancestral hall quieted down again. Shintu Weiye said again, "All right, you come in too." Charlotte walked in. He actually wanted to tell Shintu Tianyin that he wanted to try treating Shintu Ren with injections. However, he obviously wouldn't say such a thing in front of these people. Charlotte walked to Shintu Tianyin's side and whispered in her ear, "I have good news to tell you. We'll talk about it when we get out." Shintu Tianyin responded softly. The blush on her cheeks became even more obvious. The two of them were showing off their affection in public. The Shintu family felt even more uncomfortable. Shintu Weiye coughed and said slowly, "Tianyin, since you already have Charlotte's child, I won't object to your marriage. How about this, you let Tianfeng take over the Wanxiang Corporation. You can stay at home and take care of your husband and children. You can be a good wife and mother. What do you think?" Shintu Tianyin was about to speak, but Charlotte pulled her hand and whispered in her ear, "Let me be the bad guy. After all, they are your blood relatives. You still have to get along in the future. I don't mind. I'm not familiar with them anyway." Shintu Tianyin was slightly stunned. However, she understood Charlotte's good intentions. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded her head lightly. "Charlotte, if you have anything to say it out loud. Don't murmur." Shintu Tianfeng couldn't bear it any longer. He said bluntly, "I didn't let you come in to speak. You just have to listen." Charlotte smiled. "I'm not a mute. If I have something to say, of course I have something to say. Moreover, since you let Tianyin make such a decision, I have even more to say. After all, we are about to get married, and our child will be born next year. Her business is also my business. Why can't I say it? You brat!" Shintu Tianfeng really wanted to kick Charlotte out. "Let him speak." Shintu Weiye sneered. "I want to hear what he has to say." Charlotte cleared his throat, then said, "Since the old man has already made it clear, then I will also say my opinion. I think you guys are going too far." "What nonsense are you spouting?" Shintu Yi was also angry. He pointed at Charlotte's nose. "This is your Shintu family. Don't be so shameless." Wang Feng also said, "Tianyin, listen to what he has to say. Do you want to marry such a person?" Shintu Tianyin didn't say a word, pretending not to hear anything. She knew very well what Charlotte wanted to do, and her heart was filled with gratitude. Shintu Weiye used his walking stick to knock on the floor and said angrily, "Let him speak!" Chapter 175. Shintu Weiye rapped the floor tiles as everyone quietened down. Only then did Charlotte carry on, "Old man, I know what you are thinking. You do not care about money, you just want to leave wealth for the Shintu family's descendants. You even want the Shintu family to develop into a prominent and prestigious family, am I right?" Shintu Weiye did not say a word, but Charlotte's words seemed to have struck a chord in his heart. Charlotte continued, "Carrying on the family line is a conservative idea of us Chinese. It is also a common social phenomenon to value sons over daughters. You are an old man, so I am not surprised that you have such ideas. However, have you ever thought that even in a royal family, after a few generations, who would remember who is whose descendant? I'll say something unpleasant, but after 100 years, who would still remember you, old man Shintu? How dare you?" Shintu Tianfeng did not want to hear such words the most. He was afraid that Charlotte would use such ideas to convince Shintu Weiye. He pointed at Charlotte's nose, "Shut up." Charlotte suddenly roared at Shintu Tianfeng, "Shut up! You actually dare to tell me to shut up?" Shintu Tianfeng was so angry that he laughed. He looked like he could not believe it. Charlotte said disdainfully, "Who do you think you are? Don't think that just because you have the old man backing you, you can bully Tianyin as you please. Let me tell you, with me around, don't even think about it. You, Charlotte pointed at Shintu Tianfeng's nose, what about me? You can't beat me in a fight, and you can't beat me in a scolding. What can you do to me? As for you, you are eating someone else's rice, and you are still staring at someone else's bowl. You don't know how to be grateful, and instead, you are scheming for someone else's property all day long. You even brought out an old man to support you. If I were you, I would drown myself in a pool of pee. It's embarrassing to live in this world. If he wanted to be a villain, he had to be one to the end. Charlotte spared no effort in mocking Shintu Tianfeng in a bid to completely infuriate him. F***ku. Shintu Tianfeng cursed and struggled free from Tan Jingjing. He rushed forward and slapped Charlotte's face. Charlotte raised his hand. Before Shintu Tianfeng's slap could reach him, his fist had already reached Shintu Tianfeng's face. However, he did not hit Shintu Tianfeng. His fist only stopped at the bridge of Shintu Tianfeng's nose, and did not strike down. He only wanted to let Shintu Tianfeng understand that he could beat him any time he wanted. Although he had not been hit, Shintu Tianfeng could still feel the aura of the wind emanating from Charlotte's fist. He was stunned and didn't dare to act rashly. Charlotte retracted his fist. Don't overestimate yourself. I didn't hit you because you're Tianin's brother. Shintu Tianfeng's eyes looked as if he wanted to eat Charlotte's flesh and drink Charlotte's blood, but he didn't dare to make a move. Everyone looked at Charlotte with their mouths agape. No one could believe that a son-in-law who had yet to marry would dare to say such things about a member of the Shintu family, let alone Shintu Wei's favorite, Shintu Tianfeng. Old man, did you hear that? Wang Feng suddenly cried. He's gone too far, don't you have anything to say? When have we, the Shintu family, been bullied like this? You. In the future, if this brat marries our Tianin and enters our Shintu family, I will. There will be neither him nor me. Charlotte laughed. There will be neither me nor you? All right, do you know how to get to the Civil Affairs Bureau? Divorce procedures are very simple now, and can be done on the same day. I'm so angry. Wang Feng began to make a scene, crying and making a ruckus. Are all the men in your Shintu family dead? No one said a word when he bullied me like this. Woo, no one moved. Charlotte had long seen through the mentality of the Shintu family. These people were just waiting for the results before deciding whose side to stand on. Now that the outcome had not been decided, they would not easily choose a side. Shintu Wei pointed his walking stick at Charlotte and laughed angrily. Very good. You are an outsider, and you have not even entered my family's door, and you have already caused a foul atmosphere in my family. If I really let you enter my family, then that would be terrible. Tianin, get him to scram. Shintu Tianin pretended not to hear anything, and just stood there quietly, looking at Charlotte. In these few short minutes, she suddenly realized that she did not understand Charlotte that well. This was also the first time she had seen Charlotte being so strong and overbearing. But it was this unreasonable, even crude and barbaric Charlotte that had touched her heart, giving her a very strong sense of security. Some women liked strong and overbearing men, some women liked gentle and attentive men, and Charlotte seemed to have both qualities. Charlotte did not notice the subtle change in Shintu Tianin's gaze as he continued to say, I will leave, but I have to finish what I have to say. You want Tianin to hand over the Wanxiang Corporation, on what basis? Just because your surname is Shintu? Tianin's father established the Wanxiang Corporation, and after his success, he did not forget you, so you are also rich. But now Tianin's father is paralyzed in bed, and he is not dead yet, but you have already begun to force Tianin to hand over the Wanxiang Corporation. Touch your conscience, if this isn't repaying kindness with ingratitude, then what is? Everyone in the room was speechless. Charlotte continued, I know that you feel that you have contributed to the Wanxiang Corporation, and your surnames are also Shintu, But when you work in other companies, don't you have to work? You want Tianyin to hand over the Wanxiang Corporation, but do you have the law to support you? Or is it your conscience that supports you? In my opinion, you just saw that her father is paralyzed in bed, and she is just a woman, so you want to take the opportunity to scheme for the assets that her father left for her. After Charlotte finished speaking, there was still no sound in the ancestral hall. It was so quiet that a pin drop could be heard. Charlotte's words were very unpleasant to hear, but they were all true. I'm done, I'm leaving. Charlotte turned and walked out the door. Wait. Shintu Tianyin called out to him. Wait a moment, I'll say one word, and we'll leave. Charlotte stopped in his tracks. Shintu Tianyin looked at Shintu Weiye with a calm expression. Grandpa, you asked me to make the decision just now, and I've thought it through. I think what Charlotte said is right. Why should I hand over the Wanxiang Corporation? It is my father's life's work, and I will protect it. I have done a good job, and I don't think there is anyone in the Shintu family who is more qualified for my current position. As for the future, I want to wait until my child is born before I consider it. That's it, I'm leaving, you guys continue to discuss. If anyone feels that they can no longer stay in the Wanxiang Corporation, I welcome them to submit a letter of resignation at any time. Everyone in the room was stunned. This was Shintu Tianyin's decision. He didn't give them any face at all. Shintu Weiye said angrily, Leave, as long as you walk out of this house with that kid, don't come back. Shintu Tianyin said indifferently, Grandpa, you're old, and can't tell right from wrong. Don't get involved in these matters anymore, you're being used by others, don't you know? Get lost. Shintu Weiye couldn't catch his breath, and kept panting. This time, Shintu Tianfeng didn't pat his back. His old face couldn't be sold, and it had no value. Shintu Yi's family would no longer flatter him like they did in the past. Shintu Tianyin held Charlotte's hand and said intimately, let's go see my dad. Charlotte responded. He turned his head to look at the people from the Shintu family in the ancestral hall. Those people all avoided his gaze, as if they were afraid that he would remember their faces and settle the score with them in the future. In the eyes of these people from the Shintu family, Charlotte had already entered the Shintu family in such a domineering manner. He was already destined to be the man who would ride on Shintu Tianyin's body. Who would dare to offend him? Shintu Tianfeng, Shintu Yi and Wang Feng's eyes were spitting fire as they watched Charlotte and Shintu Tianyin leave intimately. After all their schemes, what they got in the end was a humiliation. This result was like a vicious mockery to this family, and they couldn't accept it. This path can't be taken. Shintu Yi said in a low voice. This is the path she chose, so don't blame me for being heartless. Shintu Tianfeng's voice was very cold. Wang Feng said hatefully, It's all that brat Charlotte's fault. He's simply a piece of mouse shit, stirring up a pot of soup. I really don't know what that little slut sees in him. She hasn't even gotten married yet, but she's already pregnant with that brat's bastard. How embarrassing! Shintu Yi said, Can't you see it yet? Shintu Tianyin has taken a fancy to that brat's strength. She deliberately found this kind of man to support her. This is going to be difficult. This brat is a very difficult person to deal with. Difficult? Dad, you're overestimating him. I know someone who will be happy to deal with him. I'll contact that person right now. A cold smile surfaced on Shintu Tianfeng's face. Shintu Yi was stunned for a moment. You're talking about Gu Kewu? Shintu Tianfeng nodded his head. It's no secret that Gu Kewu likes that little slut. Gu Kewu also has the same plan as us, but this time, he will also become one of my chess pieces. Just you wait, the show has just begun. On the way, Shintu Tianyin kept looking at Charlotte with a strange expression. Charlotte felt a little uncomfortable under her gaze and said with a smile, Why are you looking at me like that? Shintu Tianyin said, I'm curious, you look so fierce just now, I've never seen you so overbearing and domineering. When you're with Liang Xiao, will you also be this fierce to her? Charlotte smiled bitterly. We sometimes joke around and play around. That kind of situation definitely won't happen. Besides, aren't I helping you? I've thought about it. If I ruthlessly provoke that family, they won't be able to resist taking action, and you'll be able to solve the problem. Do you want to solve this problem quickly? Of course, it's better to solve this kind of problem as soon as possible. If it drags on, you won't be able to guard against it, which will be very dangerous for you. Charlotte said. Shintu Tianin's lips moved, as if he wanted to say something, but he didn't say anything. Charlotte said, It's better not to talk about this here. Do you remember when I came to find you, I said I had good news to tell you? What good news? I've seen your father's condition. I don't think his condition is as serious as you think it is. I've learned martial arts and know a little about acupuncture. If you're willing to let me try, I might be able to wake him up. Shintu Tianin stared at Charlotte, dumbfounded. I'm telling the truth. Charlotte had a serious look on his face, however. You have to take me to a place that's convenient for treatment. I don't want to come here again. Shintu Tianin suddenly hugged Charlotte. Charlotte froze on the spot. Chapter 176. Before getting out of the car, Charlotte said, Looking at today's situation, Shen Tui's family may make a move on you in advance. You have to be careful. Try not to go to public places, and don't go to remote places with few people. Well, let's get down to business. Charlotte was very embarrassed. He took out his mobile phone, opened the photo gallery, and clicked on a photo. Qin Xiang said with a smile, Why are you being so polite to me? You know what I do. I'm about to die of boredom when you let me sit in the office. Fortunately, you let me do my old job occasionally. I'm very happy. What are you sorry about? Charlotte first went to Mizumai supermarket and found Qin Xiang. Eat your snacks. You guys aren't getting married, are you? Qin Xiang suddenly blurted out this sentence. Charlotte said, Your father's disease is mainly blood vessel blockage. Giving him nutrients and drugs that can strengthen the cardiovascular system will help his blood circulation. With increased blood circulation, his vitality will be stronger, and there will be less risk when I treat him. Shintu Tianin frowned slightly. We are about to get married. I'm still pregnant with your child. How can I let you go back by yourself? The office was filled with laughter. Shintu Tianin interrupted her. Charlotte and Liang Xiao have been together for a long time. It's normal for them to fall in love over time. Besides, Miss Liang is also a very good woman. You have to remember that money is not the standard to measure whether a person is good or not. True love has nothing to do with money. Xia Lei and Liang Xiao were in the same situation as firewood encountering raging fire. Until now, Xia Lei, who was still a virgin, had brought along a barrel of gasoline, and Liang Xiao's entire body was covered with lighters. With just a little friction, the lighter would ignite. What about kissing? Of course there's something. Charlotte said with a smile, Why do you have so many snacks? Are you stimulated? Do you want to vent by eating? Charlotte patted him on the shoulder. Be careful. He's a difficult person to deal with. Then he said, I actually feel quite bad asking you to do these things for me all the time. Shintu Tianin looked at Charlotte strangely. You care about me? Charlotte thought for a moment. 50%. Andy Lau. Take it off and accept the inspection. I think it's strange too. She came to work today and bought a shopping cart full of snacks for no reason. Then, when she met people she knew, she gave out candies and melon seed. Oh right, she also bought a carton of cigarettes. When she met people who smoked, she gave them 2 cigarettes. Qin Xiang was stunned for a moment, then she chuckled and said, It's just as I guessed. She's happy that you're in love, and then she acts up and gives candy and cigarettes to everyone she knows. I knew it, she usually asked me for a discount when she bought groceries at the supermarket. Why would she buy so many delicious snacks for me? You don't have that one? You must be very strong, right? How long? Guess again. Nutrition needed by the cardiovascular system? Shintu Tianyin looked at Charlotte with some puzzlement. Charlotte said curiously, she's a very thrifty person. Would she buy so many snacks for you? Impossible. You trust me that much? Shintu Tianyin smiled. It seems that your master has not regarded you as an ordinary disciple for a long time. He has taught you all his unique skills. I'm afraid he has long wanted to train you as his son-in-law, right? Outside the door, Dubai, the head of the personnel department, was holding a list of newly recruited employees. He was sweating profusely. He was thinking about whether to go in or not. Well, I'll get ready and then we'll start. I'll contact you as soon as there's news. Qin Xiang said. Don't talk about it. Let's drive. Shintu Tianyin said, go back and ask Uncle Fu to gather his former subordinates. During this time, if it's only the two of you, it's obviously not enough. However, the two of them didn't lose their minds in the end. After all, this was the office, and there was no telling when someone would come. You're a greedy cat. Liang Xiao scratched Charlotte's cheek with her white finger. You only know how to cheat. I'm going to tell my dad. He'll tie you up and beat you. Yes, 50%. Charlotte said, I'm not sure. If you think the risk is too great, you can choose to give up. Charlotte, Liang Xiao didn't react violently. A smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Well, Beckham? Shintu Tianyin watched Charlotte walk into the gate of the community through the car window. Only when he was out of sight did he say, Ming Mei, let's go. Qin Xiang was eating snacks, a lot of snacks, chocolate, pine nuts, pistachios, and so on. They were all relatively high-end snacks. When Xia Lei walked into his office, he was stuffing a pine nut into his mouth and chewing it contentedly. Give me a week's time. During this period of time, let the nutritionists give me more nutrients and medicines that my cardiovascular system need. Also the nutrients that my brain needs, Xia Lei said to Shintu Tianyin after settling Shintu Rin down. Charlotte smiled. Of course I care about you. Okay, goodbye. He got out of the car. Pan Chongjiang. Half an hour after Shintu Tianyin and Fu Mingmei left, Charlotte also drove his black BMW M6 out of the community. He first went to a pharmacy that sold medical equipment and bought a set of silver needles, a first aid kit, and some medicine that he needed. Then he drove to Lima Manufacturing Company. There was still some time before work in the afternoon. Charlotte smiled. Then you get ready. I'll go see Xiao. Screw you. Qin Xiang rolled her eyes at Charlotte. I didn't buy these. Liang Xiao bought them for me. Charlotte said, well, I'll come here in a week to treat your father. Well, I'll go back first. Call me if you need anything. Fu Mingmei drove the car into the driveway and said as she drove, Sister Tianyin, how did he become Liang Xiao's boyfriend? If I were him, I wouldn't fall in love so early. He's so excellent. He must be able to find the best woman, such as… Shintu Tianyin pursed his lips and smiled. If I didn't believe you, would I have asked you to do me such a favor? In the office, Liang Xiao was reading a document. Since Charlotte was not there, she had to do the work that Charlotte should have done. She was so focused that she didn't notice Charlotte coming in at all. You pervert. Liang Xiao grabbed Charlotte and said, I want to check. You know a lot, but why didn't I know that you studied medicine? Shintu Tianyin wanted to ask this question when she was in the Shintu family, but she didn't say it in front of the Shintu family. Well, I noticed when you came in. I just wanted to see what tricks you were playing. Liang Xiao giggled and said, this is a child's game. You actually like to play this kind of game. But I won't laugh at you. Don't worry, haha. Charlotte smiled awkwardly. Charlotte shook his head. 50%? You're obviously smiling. Tell me, did you hold hands with Shintu Tianyin today? You two really love each other. When will you invite me to your wedding? Liang Xiao suddenly pulled him down and kissed his lip. People who are in love can feel the magic of love the most. It can make people happy, excited, and incomparable joy, but it can also make people impulsive. The two of them who were entangled quickly turned the light kiss into a wet kiss, and the wet kiss into a French kiss. Their hands also began to be dishonest. At the beginning of the kiss, they were only hugging each other's waist. But in the blink of an eye, Liang Xiao's hand went into Charlotte's clothes, and Charlotte's hand went into her skirt. Shintu Tianin thought for a moment. No, we've gone to the best hospitals in the world, but there's no way to treat him. If the current situation continues, my dad doesn't have much time left. I think if he can be sober for a minute, he will be willing to take this risk. You can treat him, don't worry about the problems after failure. What have you been busy with these 2 days? Chewing on pine nuts, Qin Xiang's voice was a bit muffled. I haven't seen you all day. Shintu Tianin picked up Shinturan and transferred him to a villa in a high-end community in the city, so that it would be convenient for Charlotte to treat him. However, Charlotte did not treat Shinturan that day. Before he did it, he had to have a certain amount of clinical experience. After all, Shinturan was a weak patient who was paralyzed in bed. If something went wrong, he couldn't afford it. What about the bed? Stop it. What are you doing? Half an hour later, Fu Mingmei drove Shintu Tianin's Rolls-Royce Phantom to the entrance of the community where Charlotte lived, and sent Fu Mingmei to the entrance of the community where Charlotte lived. Charlotte was shocked by him. How can it be so fast? Liang Xiao gently pushed Charlotte away, and her face was blushing. No, not here. Charlotte wanted to call her, but then he changed his mind. He tiptoed behind Liang Xiao, then slowly approached her, reached out his hand to cover her eyes, and then deliberately said with his tongue out, "Guess who I am?" Charlotte knew that she would ask such a question, and he had already prepared the answer. My master taught me that Kung Fu and Chinese medicine are both national quintessence, and there are many things in common. Well, I won't make fun of you. Shintu Tianin asked again, How sure are you that you can wake my father up? Shintu Tianin said, I'll drive you. But, Charlotte shook his head even more vigorously. Fu Mingmei stepped on the gas, and the Rolls-Royce Phantom sped up and drove forward. Qin Xiang came over and saw the 3 people in the photo. She asked curiously, Who are these 3 people? Handing out candy and cigarettes, and 2 cigarettes at that, was something that only a bride would do. Of course, he understood why Liang Xiao was so happy. He felt a little funny in his heart. He really didn't expect Liang Xiao to have such a funny side. Shintu Yi, Shintu Tianfeng, and Wang Feng. Charlotte said, I want you to do me a favor. Keep an eye on these 3 people, especially this Shintu Tianfeng. He pointed to Shintu Tianfeng in the photo and said, I want to know who he met, who he talked to on the phone, and so on. In short, find out as much as you can. That's no problem. What happened? Xiaolei said, There's no need. I'll call a taxi back. Charlotte moved closer to Qin Xiang's ear and whispered what had happened. He wanted Qin Xiang to do this kind of thing for him. If she didn't even tell him the truth, how could Qin Xiang do things for him? It didn't matter if he told Qin Xiang his secret with Shintu Tianin. He trusted Qin Xiang completely. Charlotte let go of her eyes and said with a bitter smile, You already knew I came in, didn't you? Guess again. Only then did Xiaolei retract his probing hand. He looked as if he hadn't had enough and was nervous. Charlotte was stunned for a moment, then shook his head. Charlotte thought for a moment and felt that what she said made sense, so he agreed. It wasn't a big deal to fight back, but if someone with ulterior motives saw it, it would become a hidden danger. Charlotte smiled. You're the one who can't bear to part with it. Master can't bear to part with it either. Remember to ask her to return the shopping cart. Chapter 177. The previous recruitment strategy was very successful. In just a few days, the employees of Lima Manufacturing Company had persuaded their classmates or friends to come to Lima Manufacturing Company. There were as many as 56 of them. Moreover, there were also people who sent in application letters, wanting to join Lima Manufacturing Company. The benefits were very good, the boss was very generous and kind, and there were many young girls in the factory. These were all places that attracted talent. Lima Manufacturing Company had not yet completed its upgrade, but the problem of talent reserve had been solved ahead of time. Charlotte did not need to worry about these things at all. It was enough for Liang Xiao and Du Bai, the director of the Human Resources Department, to worry about it. What he needed to solve was a new problem, which was how to get the clinical experience of acupuncture. When night fell, Charlotte began his experiment at home. His experimental subject was a rabbit. He tied the rabbit's 4 feet with a rope and fixed it to the table. Then he shaved off part of the hair on the rabbit's back with a shaving knife, exposing the skin. Then he twisted that part of the skin with his fingers, showing a bruised appearance. Finally, he used a silver needle to insert silver needles into the rabbit. The bruising of the skin was the cause of the injury of the subcutaneous tissue, the rupture and blockage of the capillaries. He wanted to use the silver needles to open the blocked capillaries on the rabbit's body. If he could do it, then in theory, he could also use the silver needles to unblock Shinturin's blocked blood vessels. This was also the reason why he asked for a week's time. He had to experiment and prove that it was feasible before he could carry out acupuncture treatment on Shinturin. Under normal circumstances, ordinary people could only see the bruised skin on the rabbit's body, but Charlotte was different. He could use his left eye to see the situation inside the rabbit's skin. He could clearly see which blood vessels were ruptured and which blood vessels were blocked. With this unparalleled ability, he could insert silver needles into the rabbit. If it were someone else, even an old Chinese medicine doctor with 50 years of acupuncture experience, would not be able to insert silver needles into a rabbit. With a slight twitch of his left eye, the situation inside the injured skin of the rabbit entered the vision of Charlotte's left eye. He locked on to a blocked blood vessel, and then inserted a silver needle into the location of the blood vessel. No one had studied the acupuncture points of rabbits, and he wasn't poking the rabbit's acupuncture points, but the blood vessels. With the help of his left eye's X-ray vision, the silver needle in his hand accurately pierced into the blocked blood vessel. Then, he tilted the needle and slowly approached the blocked area. When the needle neared the clogged area, his arm trembled slightly, and a trace of inner strength rushed down his arm, almost instantly passing through the silver needle. When that trace of inner strength passed through the silver needle, the entire silver needle trembled, and the temperature of the needle also increased by quite a bit. That trace of inner strength rushed out of the needle and hit the blocked area of the blood vessel like a flood hitting a dam. There was no sound, but in Charlotte's eyes, the clogged blood vessel had burst. Then, the bruise on the rabbit's skin became worse. I used too much inner strength. I need to be smaller. Charlotte summed up the experience of failure. Then, he locked on to another blocked capillary, and continued to use the silver needle and inner strength method to insert silver needles into the rabbit. This time, the blocked capillary did not burst, and only the wall of the vessel cracked. However, the blocked area was flushed a lot, and a small amount of extravasated blood flowed through the blood vessel. The third time, the blood vessel burst. The fourth time, the blood vessel burst. The fifth time, failure, failure, success, 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 failure over and over again. Charlotte's needle insertion speed increased from slow to fast, and his release of inner strength gradually became more accurate. His experience also became more and more abundant. The next morning, he gave the scarred blueprint to a neighbor, and then drove to Lima Manufacturing Company for work. When he got off work yesterday afternoon, Liang Xiao asked him to go to her house, but he didn't go. 1 week was very tight, and he must practice his acupuncture skills to a certain level. Although he could also do experiments in the Liang family, what would they think if he inserted silver needles into a rabbit in front of Liang Xiao and Liang Zhengchun? Therefore, he finally chose his own home as the site of the experiment. When he came to the company, the delivery truck of Shenzhou Industry Group was already parked in the factory. That was the last batch of equipment to be upgraded according to the contract. Now, only waiting for the new workshop to be built, the newly recruited employees and equipment to be put into production, the upgrade of Lima Manufacturing Company would be completed. After instructing the workers to unload the goods, Charlotte came to the office. Liang Xiao had already made a cup of Jin Jun Mei for him. She was wearing a set of black OL clothes, a black coat, a black woolen skirt, black high heels, and a white shirt with a ruffled collar. She was indescribably youthful, beautiful, mature, and sexy. Charlotte felt that she was more delicious than the Jin Jun Mei she made, and he wanted to taste it. "What were you doing at home last night?" Liang Xiao asked with a smile. "Learning medicine." Charlotte told the truth. "Do you have to learn at home?" Charlotte said with a smile. The ancient heroes had to choose a cave for seclusion. Of course, I also have to choose a place for seclusion. I also want to go to your house, but with you there, I don't think about medicine. Well, I need a week. After this week, I will use my acupuncture skills to treat Shintu Tianin's father. Maybe I can cure him. Liang Xiao's cherry lips suddenly curled up. Shintu Tianin again. When will she give you back to me? Charlotte gently held her waist and said softly, "Are you jealous? It's not true. You know I'm not that kind of person." Only then did Liang Xiao smile. She turned around and gave him a kiss. Women in love were the most likely to be jealous. Even the daughter of Jianghu, Liang Xiao, was no exception. However, although she was jealous, she was very broad-minded and easy to coax. She was fine after Charlotte coaxed her gently. "Well, ahem." Someone coughed at the door of the office. The sound was very soft and special. Without looking back, Charlotte knew that it was Qin Xiang standing at the door. He quickly let go of Liang Xiao and looked at Qin Xiang standing at the door of the office. He pretended to be dissatisfied and said, "Don't you know how to knock on the door?" Qin Xiang shrugged, pointed to the door against the wall and said, "Do you want me to walk in and knock on the door?" Liang Xiao's face also turned red. She quickly said, "I'll go to the R&D department to have a look. Yihao said there's a new design. You guys talk." When Liang Xiao walked to her side, Qin Xiang deliberately said loudly, "I think there should be a slogan on the wall of our company, especially the wall here. No love and no intimacy during working hours." Liang Xiao glared at Qin Xiang and suddenly stepped on Qin Xiang's foot. Qin Xiang's mouth suddenly opened wide. She didn't close it even after Liang Xiao had gone out. Charlotte laughed and said, "You deserve it. You dared to provoke her. She even dares to hit me when she gets angry." Qin Xiang smiled bitterly and said, "She's the descendant of Yan Yongchun. I understand. Since you're here, you must have gained something, right?" Charlotte changed the topic to proper business. Qin Xiang walked over and didn't stand on ceremony. She picked up the Jin Jun Mei that Liang Xiao had brewed for Charlotte and drank a big mouthful before saying, "I didn't sleep last night. What if I didn't gain anything? The kid you asked me to pay attention to met with someone last night. Guess who?" Charlotte thought for a moment and said, "Gu Kawu." Qin Xiang looked at Charlotte in surprise and asked, "How did you guess it?" Charlotte smiled and said, "I caused a ruckus in the Shintu clan. The Shintu clan is still under Shintu Tianin's control. He definitely can't use the Shintu clan's power to deal with me. If he wants to find help, Gu Kawu is the best choice. It's no secret that Gu Qian likes Shintu Tianin. He has always viewed Shintu Tianin as his exclusive property. If I interfere, he will definitely take action, and that is exactly what Shinto Tianfeng would be happy to see. Qin Xiang gave Charlotte a thumbs up and said, "Amazing, but I don't understand. You told me that the Shinto clan doesn't want Shinto Tianin to fall in love and get married. If Shinto Tianfeng went to find Gu Kawu, wouldn't he be shooting himself in the foot? It's just a scheme to kill with a borrowed knife. Of course Shinto Tianfeng wouldn't want Gu Kawu to get Shinto Tianin. He's not stupid. He knows what kind of person Gu Kawu is." Qin Xiang said worriedly, "Then you have to be careful. Gu Qian represents the Gu clan." Charlotte said, "I'll be careful. You have to be careful too. I'll continue to keep an eye on him. I'll contact you if there's any news." Qin Xiang left Charlotte's office. After Qin Xiang left, Charlotte quietly thought about the problem. When I decided to help Shinto Tianin, I expected that Gu Kawu would make a move. I'm not afraid of him now. I'm the consultant of 101 innings, and this identity can help me eliminate disasters. If it's in the dark, he'll probably choose this method, right? What will he do? It was easy to guess the thoughts of an ordinary person, but it was very difficult to guess the thoughts of a person like Gu Kawu. Just as he was thinking about something, a middle-aged man in a suit and leather shoes appeared at the door. He politely asked, "Excuse me, are you Director Xia?" Charlotte went up to greet him. "I am. May I ask who you are?" "Yes, I'm the general manager of the real estate development company under the Wanxiang Group. My name is Wan Dahai. I'm here to discuss a cooperation with you on behalf of our company." The middle-aged man called himself Wan Dahai and went straight to the point. Charlotte was a little puzzled. What cooperation? Wan Dahai took the initiative to shake hands with Charlotte and said with a smile, "Our company has real estate in major cities all over the country. We need a lot of decorative railings, steel fasteners, and so on. I want to ask your company to process and produce them for us. This is not a small business. Our annual consumption is about 40 million. Charlotte suddenly understood that this Wan Dahai was sent by Shinto Tianin. If it weren't for Shinto Tianin, this Wan Dahai would definitely not come to Lima Manufacturing Company to talk about cooperation. Charlotte laughed bitterly in his heart and said to himself, "What is she doing? There's no need for her to do this." "Director Xia." Wan Dahai looked at Charlotte with some worry. "Talk to me. The price can be discussed. The most important thing is to finalize the cooperation between our two companies." An order of 40 million was not a small order. At least 2 workshops would need to produce at full capacity for a year to complete it. The profit of producing the construction railings and steel fasteners was small, but this was a long-term order. Once it was signed, the workers in the 2 workshops would have work all year round. This kind of order was exactly what Lima Manufacturing Company needed. "Well, let's talk. The price will be according to the market price." Charlotte quickly made a decision. Although this was a business sent by Shinto Tianin, business was business. If the Thunder Horse Manufacturing Company wanted to expand, it would naturally be better if there were more such businesses. He would not refuse. It was already noon when he sent Wan Dahai off. He wanted to ask Wan Dahai to stay for lunch, but Wan Dahai wanted to leave no matter what. He just didn't know if this was also Shinto Tianin's idea. He wanted to call Shinto Tianin and ask, but he gave up after thinking about it. If he called to thank him for such a thing, it would seem distant. After work in the afternoon, Charlotte went to the market and bought a rabbit. At night, he continued to practice his acupuncture on the rabbit. Chapter 178. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. At noon, Charlotte received a call from Shinto Tianin and drove to the headquarters of the Wanxiang Group, the Wanxiang Building. This was the tallest and most luxurious building in the entire Haizhu area, which was equivalent to the heart of the Wanxiang Group. In this Wanxiang Building, Shinto Tianin received information from various branches all over the country, and then processed it to run her business empire. Charlotte had just parked the car in the parking lot when Fu Mingmei appeared. "Come with me." Fu Mingmei waved to Charlotte. Charlotte got off the car, followed Fu Mingmei into an elevator, and then went directly to the top floor of the Wanxiang building. Shintu Tianin's office was on the top floor of the Wanxiang building, which gave Charlotte a scare. It was a full 200 square meters, very wide. The office used a lot of metal materials and cold color elements, giving people a kind of cold feeling. This was in line with her character, noble, generous, and elegant. Shintu Tianin sat behind a silver metal desk, Fu Chuanfu stood next to her, and in front of her stood 4 men, very strange men. None of the clothes they were wearing were valuable. They looked like night market stall goods that cost dozens of yuan each. Their hair and beards were not trimmed, giving people a slovenly, unkempt feeling. What was even more strange was that these 4 people's hands were full of calluses, and at a glance, one could see that they were engaged in manual labor. Such 4 people, no matter which construction site, brick factory, small coal mine, or any other place was normal, only appearing in Shintu Tianin's office was strange. "Lei, come here." Shintu Tianin waved to Charlotte. Charlotte walked over. He did not deliberately stare at the 4 people. That would be impolite. Shintu Tianin said, "You should get to know these friends. Well, their names are a bit complicated. Uncle Fu, why don't you introduce them?" Fu Chuanfu nodded and then introduced them to Charlotte one by one. "He's Park Taiji, Kim Zhenhuan, Park Canlai, and Kim Dao. They are 2 brothers from Yanbian." Most of the people in Yanbian were Koreans. No wonder their names were similar to Koreans. Although Charlotte was curious about what these 4 people were doing and why they were here, he didn't lose his manners on the surface. He smiled and nodded, greeting them one by one. The 4 of them also nodded at Charlotte respectfully. It seemed that Fu Chuanfu or Shintu Tianin had told them something before they came. After greeting each other, Fu Chuanfu said, "Mr. Xia, the 4 of them are my former subordinates. They can do anything and are trustworthy. I've already informed them. If there's anything you need them to do in the future, don't hesitate to ask. They'll do anything for you." After Fu Chuanfu finished speaking, Jin Dahu and the other 3 bowed to Charlotte together. It seemed to be a declaration, a Korean declaration. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, "Fu Chuanfu probably has a history in the past, otherwise he wouldn't have subordinates." These 4 people looked rustic, but they were neither servile nor overbearing in front of Shintu Tianin. Obviously, they were not ordinary people. There was a fierce atmosphere between their eyebrows. Fu Chuanfu said they could do anything for me, including breaking the law. I'm a consultant of 101 innings. I'd better not get involved with these people. Otherwise, Long Bing and Boss Sure will definitely skin me alive. Charlotte thought like this in his heart, but he still said politely, "Thank you. If there's a need, I'll tell them." Shintu Tianin looked at Charlotte and said, "You probably know why I asked Uncle Fu to gather his former subordinates, right?" Charlotte nodded. He walked over and pulled Shintu Tianin aside. He whispered, "Do you have to do this?" Shintu Tianin was slightly stunned, and then he suddenly laughed again. "Do you think I asked them to do something illegal? I'm not that stupid. I asked Uncle Fu to gather his former subordinate. They're mainly to protect me, and they won't kill anyone." Charlotte breathed a sigh of relief. "I'm relieved," Shintu Tianin said. "Uncle Fu used to be an officer of a mercenary army in Myanmar. These people are all his subordinate. They've been to the battlefield and are very powerful. I'll use them, and they'll provide professional security. I'm relieved to have them around." Charlotte said, "If you don't feel at ease, you can ask me to accompany you." Shintu Tianin said with a smile, "I know you're very powerful, and I want you to accompany me and protect me, but won't Miss Liang be jealous? If you stay with me every day, she'll definitely come to ask for you." Charlotte smiled bitterly and didn't say anything. However, he believed that if he stayed with Shintu Tianin all day, Liang Xiao would definitely be jealous. With her straightforward character, it wouldn't be strange for her to come here to find someone. Shintu Tianin said, Uncle Fu, take them to take care of things. Give them whatever they want. Fu Chuanfu said, Okay. Then he left Shintu Tianin's office with the 4 old mercenaries. Shintu Tianin's eyes fell on Fu Mingmei. Fu Mingmei shrugged and said, Well, I'll go out too. I don't want to be a third wheel. Shintu Tianin frowned, but he didn't say anything to Fu Mingmei. There were only Charlotte and Shintu Tianin left in the big office. The space was so big that it seemed too quiet and deserted. Xiaolei said, You made such a big office and used so many cold-tone things. Don't you think it's cold? Shintu Tianin said, I'm a woman in charge of such a big group with tens of thousands of employees. I have to create a cold atmosphere so that people will think that I'm not easy to get along with and talk to. They will also be afraid of me. In this way, it's good for my management. I know you have your own management style, but it's completely different from mine. Your management style is humane. Charlotte said, My company is small and has just started. If I want to keep people or attract talents, I must treat them well. The Wanxiang Group is a big company. You also said that you have tens of thousands of employees. If you manage them in my way, it won't work. It's good that you understand this. Well, let's not talk about the company. Tell me what you've been doing these days. Shintu Tianin looked at Charlotte expectantly. Charlotte knew what she wanted to know. He said, I've been doing clinical trials these days. Well, I've been doing experiments on rabbits. Shintu Tianin said in surprise, You've been doing experiments on rabbits? She didn't say that her father was not a rabbit. Charlotte said with a smile, It's not as simple as you think, but I'm not going to explain it to you. Even if I did, you wouldn't understand. I've learned a lot these days, but I still need a volunteer to do the experiment. After all, your father is a human, not a rabbit. Speaking of this, he frowned slightly. According to my plan, I should find a volunteer today, but I really can't think of anyone who would be willing. Shintu Tianin suddenly interrupted Charlotte. Isn't there one in front of you? You? Charlotte had never thought that the queen of the Wanxiang Group would be his lab rat. He just proposed it because he wanted Shintu Tianin to find a loyal employee for him. He didn't expect that she would do it herself. Shintu Tianin said, The person you want to treat is my father. Why can't I be your lab rat for him? Don't hesitate. Come on, what do you want me to do? Charlotte looked around and found that Shintu Tianin's big office only had her chair and desk. There wasn't even a sofa for others to sit on. He asked, Do you have a lounge here? I need a quiet place where I won't be disturbed. Of course there is. Shintu Tianin grabbed a remote control placed on the office table and pressed it lightly. The metal wall behind the desk suddenly opened, revealing a very elegant space with a TV, bed, sofa, and even a large indoor bathtub and a small bar full of famous wine. Charlotte smiled. I want to change offices with you. Shintu Tianin pursed her lips and smiled. If you want, I can give you this floor. I'm serious. I'm not kidding. Charlotte, after entering the secret lounge, Shintu Tianin pressed the remote control again, and the metal wall closed again. However, the whole wall of the lounge was made of tempered glass, and the light was not affected at all. Through the huge floor-to-ceiling windows, they could overlook the city scenery of Haizhu City. Well, there's absolutely no one here to disturb us. What do you want me to do now? Shintu Tianin stared at Charlotte, waiting for his instructions. Charlotte glanced at her trousers and said with a headache, You used to wear skirts. Why are you wearing trousers today? It's cold. Of course I have to wear trousers. Does this have anything to do with your experiment? Charlotte shook his head. It doesn't matter. You can lie down on the bed. It's fine if you don't take off your trousers. Shintu Tianin blushed slightly, but she didn't say anything. She walked to the bed and took off her high heels. Then, she climbed onto the bed and lay down. Charlotte also walked to the bed and took out a deerskin wallet from the inside pocket of his suit. There were dozens of silver needles in the buckskin wallet. During this period of time, he had been immersed in the world of acupuncture and had carried this bag of silver needles with him. Whenever he was free, he would insert a few needles into his own body and figure out the knowledge of acupuncture and acupoints. Now, these silver needles were going to be used on Shintu Tianyin. I'm ready. Are you ready? Charlotte took out a silver needle from the buckskin wallet. Shintu Tianyin was a little nervous. She pursed her lips and softly answered, "Okay." Only then did Xia Lei reach out to take off her socks, and then pull down her trousers. But when he pulled, he was depressed to find that her trousers were big at the top and small at the bottom. He could only pull them up a little, which was not enough. He braced himself and pulled them up again, but it still didn't work. You'd better take them off. Charlotte was depressed. Really have to take it off? Shintu Tianyin's face immediately turned red, revealing a rare shy expression. Her shy look was really captivating, so beautiful that it took one's breath away. Charlotte braced himself and nodded. Actually, the instep can do it, but the blood vessels on the instep are too thick, so it won't be effective. Also, I need more places to insert the needles so that I can get more information, so take them off. Turn around. Shintu Tianyin's voice was very soft, and she no longer had the air of a queen. Charlotte turned around, but he thought to himself, won't I still see it later? Why do you want me to turn around? There was a rustling sound behind him. Chapter 179. The rustling sounds behind him made Charlotte inexplicably nervous. After all, Shintu Tianyin was the goddess that he first fantasized about. It would be a lie to say that he didn't have any feelings for her. He shifted his gaze to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking at the tall buildings outside and the clear sky. Only then did he shift his attention in another direction. However, this shift was undoubtedly an act of burying one's head in the sand. Soon, Shintu Tianyin's voice came from behind him. I'm done. You can turn around now. Just this sentence alone made Charlotte nervous again. He turned around, and the beautiful scenery in front of him suddenly made him stunned. Shintu Tianyin's jade-like feet were sparkling and translucent. They were of moderate size, and every single finger was delicate and cute. What was even more amazing was that the soles of her feet didn't have the slightest bit of callus, causing her jade-like feet to appear even more fair and tender. Her legs were round and slender, and her skin was extremely good without any blemishes. Although her pair of beautiful legs were not as long and powerful as Liang Xiao's, they had a soft beauty like baby fat. At the base of her legs was a black lace, tightly binding her buttocks and important places. It was slightly bulging, and the indentation was obvious. It was mature and attractive. When he saw the lace, Charlotte fiercely stabbed the silver needle in his hand into his thigh. The stinging feeling stopped Left Eye from committing a crime. It was actually very easy for him to see her most mysterious place, and she wouldn't know. However, he didn't want to do that. She was once the goddess in his heart. Although they weren't fated to be together, it was better to let her maintain the last sense of mystery. Well, you can start. Shintu Tianyin's cheeks were still so red. She was actually more nervous than Charlotte. Charlotte responded with an N and then sat on the bed. I'm going to hit you a few times. It will be a little painful. Bear with it. Shintu Tianyin said in surprise. You still want to hit me? Charlotte explained. Your father's condition is that his blood vessels are blocked. As long as I can clear his blood vessels, his symptoms will be alleviated and he will wake up. So I need to create the same situation and try to unclog your arteries. I've never tried this on a human before, and I need all the information I can get on how to do it on a human. But how do you get the feedback from my body? You only have silver needles and no other instrument. Charlotte smiled. Don't worry about that. I'm going to hit you, okay? You be gentle, I'm afraid of pain. Shintu Tianyin bit her cherry lips, looking pitiful. This voice, this expression, it didn't give people the feeling that it was a matter of silver needles, it was simply a matter of a man and a woman secretly eating an apple. Charlotte didn't say anything and inserted another needle into his thigh. I'm coming. Endure it. You do it. I'll endure it. Charlotte raised his hand and slapped the outside of Shintu Tianyin's calf. Ouch, it hurts. Shintu Tianyin couldn't help but cry out. She frowned and bit her teeth, but her face was blushing shyly. This expression could even move an eminent monk's heart. Charlotte hardened his heart and slapped the same place a few times. That delicate skin immediately turned red, and there were signs of bruising. I also want to hit your thigh. Charlotte couldn't bear it now, but he still brought it up. I still want to hit my thigh? Shintu Tianyin looked very nervous. Charlotte said, the blood vessels are unclogged. I need to hit the same blood vessels to create a second blockage. Your father's blood vessels are seriously blocked. Imagine a water pipe that is blocked in several places. Can the blood flow in it? I have to find a way to unclog them all. Go ahead. Shintu Tianyin said, I'm willing to do it for my father. Charlotte raised his hand and slapped the outside of Shintu Tianyin's right thigh. Her thigh, which had a little baby fat, suddenly rippled, and even her buttocks shook like ripples. It hurts. Shintu Tianyin seemed to be really afraid of pain, and tears even appeared in her eyes. Charlotte didn't care anymore. He braced himself and slapped her a few more times. Her thigh was also red and bruised, which was the same as the situation on the outside of her calf. You're so cruel. Shintu Tianyin bit her lip and said, My father used to be hit like this. Charlotte smiled bitterly and said, I'm doing it for your father. Well, I'm done. I won't hit you anymore. As he spoke, his left eye locked on the red and swollen place on her calf. With a slight jump, the situation under the skin entered the vision of his left eye. Then, he skillfully picked up a silver needle and inserted it into her skin. Charlotte, who was doing the acupuncture, was fully focused and didn't have any distracting thoughts. The silver needle was not very painful. It was more of a feeling of soreness and swelling. Shintu Tianyin didn't complain about the pain. She looked at Charlotte quietly, and a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Her two dimples were like mellow wine, which could make people intoxicated at a glance. With the experience of the internal force and acupuncture he got from the rabbit, Xia Lei's treatment went smoothly. He found that the blood vessels of the human body were much stronger than the blood vessels of the rabbit and could withstand more internal strength. It was far less difficult to unclog the blocked blood vessels on the rabbit. It only took him an hour to unclog all the blocked blood vessels on Shintu Tianyin's legs. Before he did the acupuncture, the two wounds on Shintu Tianyin's legs were red and bruised. After he unclogged them, the swelling and bruising disappeared, leaving only a faint red mark. It was caused by the rupture of the capillaries under the skin, and the ruptured capillaries couldn't be repaired with his acupuncture. Charlotte wiped the sweat on his forehead. He put away the silver needle and said happily, Well, look at the effect. Not bad, right? Shintu Tianyin crawled up and glanced at her leg. Then, he said in astonishment, It's true. I didn't take any medicine, yet you used silver needles to reduce the swelling. Truly miraculous. How did you do it? Charlotte smiled. I used silver needles. You saw it. Shintu Tianyin looked at Charlotte. She was obviously not satisfied with such an answer. But the fact was what Charlotte said. He just used silver needles to unclog her blocked blood vessels. This made it difficult for her to continue to ask. She said, Lei, in this case, can you treat my father in advance? Charlotte shook his head. Not yet. I have to wait for a week. Why not? I think you can do it. Charlotte said, You are a normal person, a healthy person. Your father is a patient. He has been paralyzed for 3 years. His body is very weak. Let him rest for 2 days. I can feel more at ease when I treat him. Also, I just experimented on you. I don't have enough experience. I need more experience. It will take time. Then do it again. I'll let you hit me. Shintu Tianyin was more anxious than Charlotte. Charlotte smiled bitterly and said, "To tell you the truth, I used a little internal energy when I gave you the acupuncture. That stuff can't be made up by taking a break and eating something. I can't do it today. I'm tired. Let's do it another day." "Well, as you wish," Shintu Tianyin said. Then she grabbed her pants on the bedside. When she was about to put them on, she suddenly thought of something and said, "You turn around. Don't look." Charlotte, when she didn't wear pants, he not only looked, but also hit, touched, and pricked her. But when she put on pants, she told him to turn away. What did this mean? A woman's mind was really hard to guess. A few minutes after they came out of the lounge, Fu Chuanfu returned to Shintu Tianyin's office with Jean Dahu and the other 3 people. Previously, Jean Dahu and the other 3 looked rustic. At first glance, they looked like they were moving bricks at a construction site. But now, they were dressed in suits and leather shoes, wearing sunglasses, and emitting a murderous aura. At first glance, they looked like professional bodyguards. Fu Chuanfu said, "Miss, the 4 of them will follow you in the future. They will protect you closely." Shintu Tianyin said, "Don't protect them closely. Protect them secretly. If the other party is too difficult to deal with, it will arouse their suspicion." But Fu Chuanfu wanted to say something but stopped. Shintu Tianyin said, "It's okay. Charlotte will protect me. You know his strength. When he is not with me, consider strengthening the security level." Fu Chuanfu glanced at Charlotte and then nodded in agreement. He obviously believed in Charlotte's strength. At this moment, Fu Mingmei walked into the office with a red invitation in her hand. She walked to Shintu Tianyin's side and handed the invitation to Shintu Tianyin. "Sister Tianyin, Gu Kawu sent someone to deliver the invitation. He said that he invited you to the great ensemble for dinner." Shintu Tianyin opened the invitation and looked at it. He frowned and said, "He invited me to the great ensemble for dinner? Humph, I have to go because he invited me? Go and tell the person who sent the invitation to tell Gu Kawu that I'm not free." Fu Mingmei said with a smile, "I think you will make the same decision. I'm too lazy to tell him in person. I'll call the guard to send him away." Then she walked to the desk and was ready to use the internal phone. But just as Fu Mingmei was about to dial, Shintu Tianyin stopped her again. "Wait, I'll go. Go and tell the person who sent the invitation that I will be attending the banquet with my fiancé." Fu Mingmei couldn't help but glance at Xiao Lei with a thought-provoking smile. He was her boyfriend before, but now he was her fiancé. Shintu Tianyin looked at Charlotte and said, "Lei, come with me. Gu Kawu is always pestering me. This time, I'll make him give up completely." Charlotte nodded and said, "Okay, I'll go with you." Shintu Tianyin said again, "Mingmei, go to the jewelry store and pick 2 rings. Lei and I will wear them tonight." "Wear rings?" Charlotte was stunned on the spot. "Okay, I'll go pick the rings now. Pick the best diamond ring." Fu Mingmei looked as if she wanted to see the world in chaos. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, "It's just an act. Why are you using rings? I can't let Xiao know. If she knows, I'll be finished." Chapter 180. Night fell and the lanterns were lit. A black BMW M6 drove into the ensemble of heroes. There were only 2 people in the car, Charlotte and Shintu Tianyin. This time, Shintu Tianyin didn't bring any bodyguards, nor did she drive her Rolls-Royce Phantom. Instead, she sat in Charlotte's car, which seemed to be a signal to the outside world. "I'm already taken." The car stopped, and Charlotte and Shintu Tianyin got out of the car. Both of them were wearing a large diamond ring on their ring fingers. The two of them held hands and walked towards the hall of the ensemble of heroes. They were a perfect match, just like a newlywed couple. Shintu Tianyin glanced at the diamond rings on her and Charlotte's hands from the corner of her eye from time to time. The shiny diamond rings sparkled under the lights, and her face was filled with a sweet smile. Charlotte, on the other hand, felt very strange. Holding on to Shintu Tianyin's hand and wearing the diamond ring that symbolized their engagement, he actually had a confused feeling that he couldn't tell what was going on. After this feeling emerged, he felt a little guilty and said, "What am I thinking about? This is just an act. Xiao is my girlfriend. She loves me so much and treats me so well. I can't do anything to let her down." "What are you thinking about?" Shintu Tianyin's voice interrupted Charlotte's thoughts. Charlotte smiled. "Nothing. Are you thinking about Miss Liang?" "Charlotte, I'm like a lamb walking into a tiger's mouth this time. You have to protect me and not let the tiger eat me," Shintu Tianyin said with a smile. It seemed like a joke, but this was the real situation. Gu Kewu saw Shintu Tianyin as his exclusive property. With Gu Kewu's character and means, would he sit back and watch Shintu Tianyin date other men? He would probably make the first move. Charlotte gently held her hand. "Don't worry with me here, no one can hurt you." The smile on Shintu Tianyin's face became even more obvious. His two dimples quietly opened up like a blooming lily. Gu Kewu and Gu Qun came out of the hall as if they had received a notification from the guard. Of the two siblings, one was dressed in a well-ironed suit, while the other was dressed in a gorgeous evening gown. They were also dragons and phoenixes among men, exuding an aura of nobility. Seeing Charlotte and Shintu Tianyin holding hands, Gu Kewu's face suddenly became gloomy. He looked at Charlotte with hatred and hostility, but this only happened in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, his face was full of smiles, and he said elegantly, "Tianyin, why did you only come now? You made me wait for a long time." Shintu Tianyin said lightly, "I have something to do with my fiancé, so I'm late. I'm sorry." "Your fiancé?" Gu Kewu looked at Charlotte and laughed a little exaggeratedly. "Is it Mr. Xia?" "Tianyin, stop joking, okay?" Gu Qun also said, "Sister Tianyin, you're really amazing. You want to use this trick to get rid of those people who are pestering you? However, my brother is sincere towards you, and he won't shrink back at the last minute. Even if you're married, he won't give up." Shintu Tianyin frowned. "Do I look like I'm joking with you?" "I don't want to hear such words. If you still want to say it, I'm leaving." Gu Qun and Gu Kewu looked at each other. At this time, the brother and sister seemed to be unsure of the truth of this matter. The reason was very simple, because they could find some answers from the way Shintu Tianyin looked at Charlotte. There were some things that couldn't be faked, such as feelings. Although the Gu siblings didn't greet Charlotte, Charlotte still stretched out his hand in a very graceful manner. "Hello, Mr. Gu." Gu Kewu shook hands with Charlotte. "You're welcome. Please come in and take a seat." "Okay." Charlotte stretched out his hand to Gu Qun again. "Hello, Miss Gu." Gu Qun curled her lips, looking very unwilling, but she still shook hands with Charlotte. If it weren't for Shintu Tianyin, what she wanted to do would definitely be to scratch Charlotte's face with her nails, and definitely not to shake hands with Charlotte. Shintu Tianyin took Charlotte's hand again, and entered the hall with the Gu siblings. There were no guests in the hall, but there were more than a dozen bodyguards in suits and leather shoes with cold expressions. They occupied the four corners of the hall, and all looked at Charlotte with cold eyes. This lineup was obviously sending a signal to Charlotte. The Gu family was not something he could provoke. Charlotte scoffed at such a lineup. Using a dozen bodyguards to scare him? The thinking of the Gu siblings was too naive. Shintu Tianyin said, "Didn't you say that there were other guests? Why are we the only ones here?" Unlike Charlotte, those burly bodyguards with cold expressions made her feel a little nervous. "Of course there are other guests, but they're not here. Come with me." Gu Kawu said with a smile. The four of them passed through the hall, walked through a small path covered by trees, and arrived in front of an ancient-style pavilion. There was a plaque hanging on the lintel of the pavilion, and the words, "Heavenly Music Pavilion," were engraved on it. Charlotte remembered this place. It was the last time he accompanied Lu Ying to the Hall of Heroes, and he had heard about this place from Gu Qian. At that time, he had not been able to come here. This was the first time. Gu Kawu did not hide his feelings for Shintu Tianyin by giving this place such a name. Charlotte also knew that Gu Qian had brought Shintu Tianyin here with him to warn him indirectly, "Shintu Tianyin is mine, stay away from her." Charlotte had to admit that Gu Kawu had really put in a lot of effort for this meeting. The door of the Heavenly Music Pavilion was tightly shut. Gu Kawu and Gu Qian arrived at the door, but did not open it to enter. Instead, they stood by the door, smiling at Charlotte and Shintu Tianyin. "Please come in." Gu Kawu had a gentle smile on his face. Shintu Tianyin said, "What are you playing at?" Gu Qian said with a smile, "Sister Tianyin, just go in. My brother has prepared a special gift for you." Shintu Tianyin glanced at Charlotte. Charlotte nodded. Only then did Shintu Tianyin let go of Charlotte's hand. She walked to the door and pushed it open. The moment the door opened, all the lights in the loft and the street lamps outside suddenly went out. Charlotte immediately tensed up. She took a step forward and stood in front of Shintu Tianyin. The moment the lights went out, although Shintu Tianyin was very nervous, she was not afraid because Charlotte was standing in front of her. She was only touched. Although everything was dark, Charlotte's left eye was not affected at all. He could clearly see the situation in the loft. More than 10 people were surrounding a long dining table. Each of them held a lighter in their hands to light the candles on the table. There were men and women among them. It seemed that they had rehearsed many times. Their movements were very coordinated and uniform. More than 10 candles were lit almost at the same time, forming the shape of a heart. The candlelight dispelled the darkness. On the wall behind the dining table, there was an airbrushed poster of Shintu Tianyin. Next to her was a very touching text, "Tianyin, this is the 999th day we've known each other. I remember every day I've known you. Your smile, your voice, everything about you fascinates me. On this special day, please allow me to confess to you." At this time, a well-behaved girl pushed a cart full of roses out of a room in the loft. There was no need to count the huge bouquet of roses in the cart. There must be 999 roses in the cart. At this time, Charlotte also found that many of the guests who lit the candles were stars of the entertainment circle, such as Lu Yen, Chun Hao, Yang Mi, and so on. A candlelight dinner, a huge poster of an affectionate confession, 999 roses, and a large group of big stars of the entertainment circle. This dinner was romantic and fashionable. In this world, how many women could resist such temptation? Gu Kawu walked into the loft and picked up the huge bouquet of roses from the cart. He knelt on one knee in front of Shintu Tianyin and said affectionately, "Tianyin, my feelings for you have never changed. From the moment I saw you, I fell in love with you deeply and couldn't extricate myself. I can't imagine what fun life is without you. Please take pity on my sincerity and be with me." The room of stars and several friends of Gu Kawu applauded together. Some people even encouraged him. "Miss Tianyin, accept his flowers." Miss Tianyin, Kawu is a man who is infatuated with love. Such a man should be cherished. Miss Tianyin, the only man in the world who is worthy of you is Kawu. You will be the happiest couple in the world. Everyone in the room was talking at once. The scene was lively and joyful. They seemed to have overlooked a point, and that was that Shintu Tianyin had brought her fiancé here, and she was even wearing an engagement ring. In fact, the person who ignored Charlotte the most was not these guests, but Gu Kawu. A man was courting a woman's fiancé in front of her. What kind of thing was this? This was no longer a simple disregard, It was a blatant trampling on the 5 insults. Before Charlotte could react, Shintu became anxious and angry. Gu Kawu, did you invite me here just to watch you act? I am already engaged to Charlotte. How can you do this? Gu Kawu didn't look angry at all. You're mine. I'll only marry you in this life. Not to mention that you're only engaged. Even if you're already married, I'll still pursue you until I get you. Wow! What a romantic and affectionate man. Lu Yen, who had big breasts, covered her surging breasts, looking touched. Take the flowers. How can you refuse such a romantic courtship? Someone egged him on. Gu Qian said with a smile, Sister Tianyin, are you going to make my brother kneel until dawn? Hurry up and take the flowers. Shintu Tianyin said angrily, you guys are too rude. I have already made it very clear. I am already engaged to Charlotte. Other than him, I will not accept any other confession. Everyone's eyes were focused on Xiaolei. Although they didn't say anything, the lines in their hearts seemed to be like this. What can you do when someone is cuckolding you in front of your face and ignoring you like this? Gu Kawu stared at Charlotte. The smile on his face suddenly disappeared. Charlotte, if you know what's good for you, leave this place immediately. You are not worthy to be with Tianyin. If you leave now, you will be safe for the rest of your life. Our previous grievances will be written off. If you dare to say no, you can try. As soon as he finished speaking, Charlotte suddenly kicked him. Chapter 181. With this kick from Charlotte, the huge bouquet formed by 999 roses suddenly burst open. Delicate and bright petals filled the sky, and Charlotte's big foot, which was wearing size 41 leather shoes, passed through the roses and fiercely kicked Gu Kawu's shoulder. Gu Kawu let out a muffled groan. He, who was kneeling on one knee and holding the bouquet, was kicked to the ground. The entire heavenly music parlor was completely silent. No one believed that someone would dare to kick Gu Kawu, and it was at the hero gathering. But Charlotte did it without any hesitation or scruples. Charlotte had never thought of fighting with Gu Kawu here, but Gu Kawu had gone too far. Shintu Tianyin had already repeatedly told Gu Kawu that he was her fiancé, but Gu Kawu still wanted to confess his love in front of everyone. This was equivalent to making him a cuckold. Although he and Shintu Tianyin were fake, Gu Kawu's insults were real. If he was indifferent to such insults, could he still be considered a man? Another reason was that there were definitely spies from Shintu Tianfeng in this room. If he was indifferent to Gu Kawu's insults, then his and Shintu Tianyin's act would be exposed. There were 2 reasons. Charlotte clearly knew that this kick would lead to terrible consequences, but he still did it cleanly and fearlessly. Shintu Tianyin also looked at Charlotte in surprise. She never expected Charlotte to be so impulsive, to actually kick Gu Kawu to the ground at the hero gathering. Bastard! Gu Qian was the first to regain her senses. She scolded angrily and slapped Charlotte. Charlotte grabbed her hand and swung it, causing Gu Qian to stagger and fall to the ground. Gu Kawu crawled up from the ground. He patted the dust off his shoulders and laughed angrily. Charlotte, in my entire life, you are the first person to hit me, and it was in my place. If you can get out of here alive tonight, I'll kneel down and kowtow to you. With that, he whistled. Dense footsteps suddenly came from all around, and in the blink of an eye, dozens of people ran over. These were all Gu Kawu's subordinates, including the dozen or so fierce bodyguards in the hall. Gu Kawu reached out and pulled Gu Qian up. Gu Qian pointed at Charlotte and said fiercely, "Break his legs." Dozens of bodyguards swarmed forward, each with a weapon in their hands, a steel pipe or a baseball bat. Some even held controlled knives such as machetes and folding knives. "How dare you!" Shintu Tianyin panicked, but her momentum was still there. "Gu Kawu, if you dare to touch him, I will use all the resources I can use to take revenge on you." Gu Kawu raised a hand, and the dozens of men who were about to make a move stopped in unison, but they had already surrounded Charlotte and Shintu Tianyin. Gu Qian said angrily, Shintu Tianin, my brother treated you like this, and you actually treat him like this. Shintu Tianin did not show any weakness. That's his wishful thinking. What does it have to do with me? Don't think that I'm one of those 17 or 18-year-old girls who have never seen the world, and will be fooled easily. We both know very well what you and your brother are planning. You. Gu Qian was angry on the spot. Qian, say less. Gu Kawu looked very calm. He looked at Shintu Tianin. Tianin, your words can't scare me. You're in trouble now, do you dare to say it? I know why you like this kid. Because he's strong enough to help you deal with your family's people. But why didn't you choose me? Don't tell me I'm not comparable to this kid from the construction site? Don't play with him. He's not worthy of you. I'm the man you're destined to marry in this life. If you're with me, I can guarantee that those who have ideas about you will not have a good end. We will never have the possibility of being together. I and my fiancé came to the banquet. I didn't expect you to be so rude. Forget it, let's not contact each other in the future. Shintu Tianin pulled Charlotte's hand. Let's go. Want to go? Ha ha. Gu Kawu laughed very loudly. The dozens of bodyguards simply did not give way. Each and every one of them fiercely stared at Charlotte and Shintu Tianin. Shintu Tianin angrily said, What do you want to do? What do I want to do? Gu Kawu sneered and said, No one dares to hit me, moreover in front of my friend. If I let you go like this, how would I have the face to mix in the circle in the future? You just heard it, my sister wants his legs. How about this, Charlotte, if you break your legs, I'll let you crawl out of here. I'm a man of my word, for the sake of Tianin, I'll spare your life. I'll call the police. Shintu Tianin took out her mobile phone from her handbag, but when she was about to dial, she found that there was no signal. Gu Qian sarcastically said, Sister Tianin, there's no signal? Do you want me to turn on the signal tower? You've been scheming against me from the beginning. Shintu Tianin completely understood. She regretted letting Charlotte accompany her here. But it was too late to regret. There was no way to contact the outside. Fu Chuanfu and his people couldn't come to help. The police also wouldn't come here. This was a Hongmen banquet. Gu Kawu gave a look to one of his men. That man threw the machete in his hand at Charlotte's feet, and with a clang, a lot of sparks flew. Gu Qian stared at Charlotte and said coldly, Cut off the tendons of your left and right feet, then crawl out. Charlotte bent down to pick up the machete, but Shintu Tianin firmly held his hand. No. Charlotte smiled. Don't worry, nothing will happen. I've said that as long as I'm by your side, no one can hurt you. Shintu Tianin was stunned for a moment, and tears immediately appeared in his eyes. She was a very strong woman, never showing her inner feelings, but in front of Charlotte, she seemed to be a different person. Charlotte picked up the machete and waved it in his hand, then looked at Gu Kawu and said lightly, Gu Kawu, I dared to kick you, I'm not afraid of what you can do to me. You want me to cut off my tendons and crawl out, I can't do it, so why don't you do it yourself? A fierce light flashed in Gu Kawu's eyes, and he waved his hand. A few of Charlotte's men who were standing closest to him suddenly rushed up, the baseball bats, machetes, and steel pipes in their hands all swung at Charlotte. Charlotte pushed Shintu Tianin into the heavenly music parlor, then raised the machete in his hand, and ruthlessly chopped the arm of a big man who was about to hit his head with a baseball bat. Blood splattered. Ah! The big man screamed, and the baseball bat in his hand fell to the ground. Charlotte moved sideways, nimbly dodging the attacks of the other two men, and backhanded the machete on the shoulder of a man who was also using a machete to attack his back. With a crack, the blade was embedded in the shoulder blade, and the guy didn't even have time to scream before he fainted. Just as he fell to the ground, Charlotte's machete attacked again, and slashed the thigh of the third man. His attack was ruthless and fast, just like a professional killer or secret agent in the movies. Everyone was stupefied and scared out of their wits. The most shocked was Gu Kawu. He never dreamed that Charlotte not only dared to kick him here, but also dared to chop people here. At this moment, Charlotte was like a barbarian. He didn't care about the law, the power of the big families, and so on. Whoever dared to provoke him, he would chop them. After taking down 3 people in an instant, Charlotte suddenly jumped in front of Gu-Kawu, raised his hand, and the blood-stained machete in his hand landed on Gu-Kawu's neck. Don't, at that moment, Gu-Kewin's heart almost jumped out of his throat. Gu-Kawu was also scared to the point that his legs went soft, and cold sweat appeared on his head. At that moment, he thought that his head would fly out from his neck. But Charlotte's machete was only close to Gu-Kawu's neck, and didn't chop down. When he attacked, his goal wasn't to chop people to death, so the place where he chopped down wasn't a fatal spot. It looked very fierce, but in fact, before he chopped down, he had already used his left eye to lock on the non-fatal part of the target. Although the chop was fierce, it wouldn't kill people. But even so, in the eyes of others, he was simply a bloodthirsty madman. No one knew what a crazy person would do, so no one was sure if Charlotte really dared to chop Gu-Kawu's neck. You don't mess around. Not only did Gu-Kawu's legs go soft, even his voice was trembling. Charlotte went behind Gu-Kawu and coldly said, "Didn't you want my hamstring? Take a machete, the 2 of us will chop." You're crazy." Gu-Kawu continued to tremble. Charlotte sneered and said, "You don't dare? If you don't dare, then don't talk big. Gu-Kawu, other people are afraid of you, that's other people. I'm warning you for the last time, don't mess with me. Get your people to scram." Gu-Kawu didn't say anything, he was hesitating. "You dare? Let go of my brother." Gu-Kewin recklessly roared at Charlotte. Xiaolei turned his body sideways and kicked Gu-Kewin's face with a bang. Gu-Kewin immediately shut her mouth, and fell heavily on the ground, never to get up again. Charlotte never hit a woman, but Gu-Kewin was an exception. Watching his sister being kicked until she fainted, Gu-Kawu's eyes were about to spit fire. "Charlotte, do you know what you're doing? You're dead." Charlotte slapped the back of Gu-Kawu's head. "Damn, do you think you're a prince? You think you can kill me just because you want to?" This slap was very heavy, Gu-Kawu's head was buzzing, and his eyes were filled with stars. Charlotte raised his hand and pointed at Gu-Kawu's large group of underlings and said coldly, "I'm going to leave this place immediately. You can come and chop me, but I promise I won't hold back. I will really chop you to death. You want to chop me to death, it's against the law. I want to chop you to death, it's self-defense." The large group of underlings didn't dare to move. Gu-Kawu was in Charlotte's hands, it was one reason, but the more important reason was that Charlotte was ruthless and powerful. Who would dare to risk being chopped to death to show off? "Tianyin, let's go." Charlotte beckoned to Shintu Tianyin. Shintu Tianyin's brain could no longer work properly, she subconsciously nodded, and obediently stood behind Charlotte. Charlotte held Gu-Kawu and walked towards the group of underlings blocking the way. Without Gu-Kawu's order, the group of underlings didn't dare to give way, but they also didn't dare to attack Charlotte. Charlotte slapped the back of Gu-Kawu's head fiercely and said sternly, "Tell your dog to get out of the way. Damn it, did you hear me? Are you a pig, can't you understand human language?" After saying that, the second slap came down. Gu-Kawu's head felt like it was about to explode, the pain and shock were unbearable. He finally gave in and shouted, "Get out of the way!" If he was slapped a few more times, he might get a concussion or even become an idiot. Only then did the group of underlings make way. Charlotte held Gu-Kawu hostage, and took Shintu Tianyin through the hall, and then came to the parking lot. Shintu Tianyin woke up, and without waiting for Charlotte's order, she took the car key from Charlotte's belt, opened the door, and then sat in the driver's seat, and said in a panic, get in the car." Chapter 182. Gu-Kawu's men also followed, but they didn't dare to get too close. Charlotte held Gu Kawu hostage and walked to the passenger seat. At this time, Shintu Tianyin had already started the engine. Gu Kawu calmed down at this time and said coldly, "Charlotte, this is not over. I will settle this account with you." Charlotte said, "I am not afraid of your revenge. You can do whatever you want. I will also leave you a message. Not everyone in this world is afraid of you. Don't overestimate yourself." "Humph. Let's wait and see." Gu Kawu sneered. Charlotte opened the door and pushed Gu Kawu away. At this time, Charlotte's left eye suddenly caught a flash of light. He was shocked and instinctively dodged to the side. However, his speed was far slower than the flying object. As soon as he dodged a little, the light flashed across his arm. He felt a stinging sensation and the door shook, making a dull sound. It was a silver flying knife with blades on both sides. Under the street lights, it shone with a cold light and looked very sharp. Blood flowed from Charlotte's left arm and wet his clothes. Charlotte didn't look at his wound. His eyes were locked in the direction of the flying knife. An old man and a young man walked over calmly in his sight. The old man was tall and thin with sharp eyes. He was wearing a traditional Chinese suit and a pair of cloth shoes. He was carrying a sword, which matched his attire. He looked like a knight from ancient times. The young man was in his 20s, strong and well-proportioned and handsome. He was wearing a set of Adidas sportswear and was playing with a silver throwing knife in his hand. If it weren't for the flying knife, he would look like a professional athlete, a person full of positive energy. Just now, it was obvious that this young man had attacked and almost seriously injured Charlotte. In fact, if Charlotte's reaction had been a few tenths of a second slower, the flying knife would not have just scratched his arm. The flying knife was originally aimed at his chest. His first move was so ruthless. This young man looked like a sunny person, but he was actually a vicious wolf. "Get in," Shintu Tianyin said anxiously. Charlotte reached out to open the car door again. The young man suddenly waved his hand, and the flying dagger in his hand turned into a fast-flying streamer with a swoosh and stabbed into the front tire of the BMW M6. Tires were elastic, so even if a knife were to slash at them, they would bounce off. However, the sides of the tires were Achilles' heel. As long as one was fast enough and strong enough, one could pierce through them in an instant. Chi-Chi, the front wheel of the BMW M6 was flat. Charlotte made a prompt decision. He closed the door and shouted at Shintu Tianyin, "Go! I won't leave if you don't." Shintu Tianyin yelled at Charlotte. At this moment Gu Kawu laughed out loud, "None of you can leave. Tianyin, you are mine. Other than me, no other man in this world can have you." The old man and the young man walked to Gu Kawu's side. Charlotte regretted letting Gu Kawu go in advance. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in such a passive position. However, he didn't expect that there would be two such powerful people here. He also wondered why the old man and the young man didn't show up when he and Gu Kawu's men were fighting so fiercely. In short, he still lacked experience. If it was Long Bing dealing with such a matter, she would definitely bring Gu Kawu to the car and only let him go to a safe place. There was no medicine for regret in this world, so it was useless to regret. Charlotte obviously wanted Shintu Tianyin to leave alone, and then he would think of a way to escape. However, Shintu Tianyin was so stubborn and insisted on being with him. His heart was in a mess. The tires were flat. Even if he could barely drive, he would be caught in less than 5 minutes. Even if he was extremely smart, he couldn't think of a way to escape. "This kid is very powerful. He's mine," the young man said. "He's very powerful. He learned Wing Chun. I like to beat people who learn Wing Chun the most. I'm old enough to be your grandfather. Let me do this kind of thing," the old man said. The old man and the young man talked as if there was no one else around. They didn't put Charlotte in their eyes at all. They didn't even say hello to Gu Kawu, but Gu Kawu was very respectful to them. When they finished talking, he said, "Uncle Dong, Chin Chi, thank you." The young man called Qinchi said with a smile, "Don't say that. Your father asked us to help." The old man surnamed Dong said, "I asked you to learn martial arts but you didn't. You only know how to do business and pick up girls. Now you're suffering, aren't you? Your father deliberately let you suffer a little before he asked us to help. He said that as long as your spirit is worn down, you can really learn to be smart." Charlotte came to a realization. These two people were Gu Kawu and Gu Qian's father, Gu Dingshan's men. He also realized the second mistake he had made tonight. The Gu family was on par with the Shin Tu family clan, and they came from the underworld. It was impossible for them to only have that bit of strength. He also remembered what Long Bing had said before. Do not provoke the Gu family clan. This was a warning that Long Bing had given to Charlotte. As the Gu family was a behemoth, there were many people who had dealings with the Gu family. It was not only in business but also in other aspects. Hence, it was a huge interest group. Even she was helpless against such a behemoth, much less him. However, if time was reversed and he returned to the Heavenly Music Pavilion, Charlotte would still make the same choice. He would kick them. This was for Shintu Tianyin and also for himself. A man had to defend his dignity. Seeing that there was no way to escape, Shintu Tianyin got out of the car and stood beside Charlotte. When she saw the wound on Charlotte's arm, without a word, she tore a piece of cloth from her dress and bandaged it for Charlotte. Qin-Chi laughed. "Young Master Wu, are you sure you can win the Shin Tu family's woman?" Gu Kawu looked at Shintu Tianyin, who was bandaging Charlotte. His eyes were filled with hatred, but he pretended to be affectionate. "Tianyin will understand my sincerity. She can only be my woman in this life. Other men can forget about touching her." Qin-Chi chuckled. "I will capture her in a while, and you can consummate your marriage tonight. I like to help others achieve their goals." Elder Dong said, "Are you done dawdling? Kawu, get your men to send the unrelated people away. I have something to do." The unrelated people were obviously referring to the celebrities who came from the Heavenly Music Pavilion to watch the fun, as well as a few good friends of the Gu siblings. Gu Kawu then said in a loud voice, "Wait for me at the Heavenly Music Pavilion. I will come over to drink with you later." This was a polite remark. As he spoke, his men had already surrounded them. Whether they were willing or not, they had to leave. Soon, only Elder Dong, Qin-Chi, Gu Kawu, Charlotte and Shintu Tianyin were left in the parking lot. There were only 5 people in total. The old man surnamed Dong pulled out his treasured sword. It was an antique treasured sword that emitted a chilling aura. Gu Kawu sneered, "Uncle Dong, cut off that kid's leg tendons." The old man surnamed Dong nodded and strode toward Xia Lei with his sword in hand. Before Elder Dong got close, Charlotte could already feel the powerful aura coming from him. Charlotte said in a deep voice, "Why don't you leave? I brought you here, so I have to take you away. If you don't leave, I won't leave either." Shintu Tianyin's eyes were very determined. Charlotte sighed, "Then get out of my way. I can't take care of you when we fight." Shintu Tianyin obeyed Charlotte this time. She took a few steps back, but then she thought of something and said loudly, "Gu Kawu, name a price. We will solve this problem with money." Gu Kawu smiled. "I don't want money. I only want you. As long as you agree to marry me, I will let this kid go now." Elder Dong deliberately slowed down his pace. He seemed to know Gu Kawu's thoughts and purposes. He was giving Shintu Tianyin some time to think. "Go to hell." This was Shintu Tianyin's answer. Gu Kawu's expression suddenly became ferocious. "Uncle Dong, cut off the kid's leg tendons. A piece of cake." Elder Dong suddenly sped up. In the blink of an eye, he rushed to the front of Charlotte. His sword arrived and cut towards Charlotte's ankle. Charlotte turned sideways and flipped over the BMW M6 hood. Elder Dong's ancient sword slashed at the door of the BMW M6, tearing a hole in the metal door. With the sharpness of the ancient sword, coupled with Elder Dong's strength, this was not cutting off Charlotte's leg tendons. It was simply cutting off his foot. Elder Dong chased after him. The sword in his hand stabbed towards Charlotte. His speed was extremely fast. The angle of his attack was also very tricky. Charlotte did not have a weapon. He simply did not dare to face it head-on. He could only dodge. But even if his left eye could capture the fast-moving ancient sword, his body's reaction speed could not keep up with his left eye. In less than a minute, his body had 2 more wounds. "Kid, who did you learn your Wing Chun from?" Elder Dong was also very surprised. "If you have the guts, put down your sword and fight me with your bare hands," Charlotte said and retreated. Elder Dong sneered, "Goading me? It's useless." As he spoke, he shook his hand and slashed towards Charlotte's thigh. Swoosh! A flying knife suddenly flew over. Charlotte was shocked. He did not care about his dignity. He threw himself sideways and rolled on the ground to avoid the joint attack of Qin Shi and Elder Dong. "Charlotte, catch!" It was Shintu Tianin's voice. Clang! A crowbar specially used for jacking flew out of Shintu Tianin's hand and fell beside Charlotte. While Elder Dong and Charlotte were fighting fiercely, Qin Shi was looking for an opportunity to sneak attack, and Gu Kawu was watching the fun. Shintu Tianin quietly opened the trunk of the BMW M6, took out the crowbar from the jacking, and threw it to Charlotte. Charlotte's situation was very dangerous. She was anxious all the time and did not think of a way to help Charlotte. Xia Lei grabbed the Jack's crowbar, just in time to meet the old man Dong's sword slash towards his shoulder. This time, he did not dodge. Instead, he hit it with the crowbar. Ding! Sparks flew everywhere. The ancient sword and the crowbar were knocked away. The Jack's crowbar was chipped, and the ancient sword's edge was chipped. Elder Dong was stunned for a moment. He could no longer maintain his elegant calmness. He roared and attacked Charlotte crazily. Charlotte countered every move. With the iron bar in his hand, he was not worried about the sharp ancient sword. Moreover, his left eye could capture the trajectory of the ancient sword. He did not need to dodge. He only needed to use the iron bar to block. His reaction and speed were more than enough. Ding! Dang! Dang! There were more and more cracks on the iron bar and the ancient sword. If the iron bar was broken, he could just throw it away. However, Elder Dong's ancient sword was a treasure. After a fight, it turned into broken iron. This is not good. Qin Shi did not wait for a chance to sneak attack Charlotte. He walked towards Shintu Tianin. Even if Charlotte had the Monkey King's golden cudgel in his hand, he would have to hold back for fear of injuring Shintu Tianin. Shintu Tianin turned and ran away. Whoosh! A flying knife brushed past her thigh and pierced into the gap between 2 cement bricks. Shintu Tianin stopped with a pale face. Qin Shi sneered and said, "Woman, what's wrong with marrying our young Master Wu? In my opinion, you should get married tonight." Ha ha! Shintu Tianin bit her lip. She now understood why Charlotte wanted her to escape alone. However, it was too late. Qin Shi walked towards Shintu Tianin. For him, catching Shintu Tianin was as easy as reaching into a birdcage to catch a canary. At this moment, there was a loud bang at the door of the hero's clubhouse. An off-road vehicle crashed through the door and rushed in like a beast. Chapter 183. The car crashed directly into Qin Shi. Even if Qin Shi's knife-throwing skill was comparable to that of a pistol, he could not use his knife to kill an off-road vehicle that was rushing at him at a speed of 80 kilometers per hour. He hurriedly stepped back to avoid the direction of the off-road vehicle. The off-road vehicle made an emergency brake and stopped between Qin Shi and Shintu Tianin. The person sitting in the driver's seat was Fu Chuanfu. The door of the front passenger seat suddenly opened. Jin Dahu, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, jumped out of the car and strode towards Qin Shi and Gu Kawu behind him. Qin touched his waist and held a flying dagger in his hand. Jin Dahe grinned and pulled off his windbreaker. His body was wrapped with a lot of tubular things and wires, and he held an ugly homemade controller in his hand. Qin face suddenly turned pale. He did not dare to throw the knife in his hand and quickly stepped back. Jin Dahe continued to stride forward. "Don't come over." Gu Kawu was also frightened and said nervously, "Tianyin, are you crazy? Tell your people to stop." On the other side, the fight between Charlotte and Mr. Dong finally stopped. Charlotte's hand seemed to be holding a bad ham sausage, while Mr. Dong's hand seemed to be holding a grilled fish steak. The scene was very funny. Shintu Tianyin said, "Come back." Only then did Jin Dahe stop and retreat. "Miss, get in the car," Fu Chuanfu said. Shintu Tianyin did not move. She looked at Charlotte and said, Let's go." Charlotte also stepped back. His body was covered with blood, which looked very scary. Although those wounds were not fatal, he had no chance to stop the bleeding under the entanglement of Mr. Dong. Under the intense movement, he lost blood quickly. If Fu Chuanfu and Jin Dahe had not come, he would have been defeated by Mr. Dong because he would not have been able to hold on for a long time. Charlotte walked to the side of the off-road vehicle. As soon as he relaxed his tense nerves, his body felt as if it had been sucked dry. He staggered and fell to the ground. Shintu Tianyin quickly hugged him and asked anxiously, "Are you all right? Bear with it, I'll send you to the hospital right away." Charlotte didn't want her to worry, so he pretended to be relaxed. "It's okay. I'll just bandage it myself. There's no need to go to the hospital." Shintu Tianyin helped Charlotte into the car. Jin Dahe slowed down his retreat. He was buying time for Charlotte and Shintu Tianyin. Gu Kawu watched as Shintu Tianyin helped Charlotte into the car, and then she also got into the car. Things had come to this point, but he was still unwilling to give up. He said loudly, "Tianyin, I never wanted to hurt you. It's all because of that kid. Leave him. As long as you promise to leave him, I won't pursue this matter and he will be safe." Until now, Gu Kawu was still using Charlotte to threaten Shintu Tianyin to be with him. The thickness of his skin was really impressive. Fu Chuanfu poked his head out of the driver's seat and said coldly, "Gu Kawu, I'll give you a piece of advice. Today's matter will end here. If you dare to touch a hair of my son-in-law, I'll make you pay 10 times the price. If you dare to hurt my young lady, I'll blow up your nest even if I have to sacrifice my old life." Gu Kawu looked at Fu Chuanfu with a livid face. Of course, he knew Fu Chuanfu and knew his background. He knew very well that Fu Chuanfu was not trying to scare him. He could really do it. He was a mercenary leader from the chaotic areas of South Asia and a man who had been tempered by the flames of war. If he wanted to die, no one could. Mr. Dong sneered and said, "Fu Chuanfu, you try. Dong Wu, you try too." Fu Chuanfu's voice was also very cold. The conversation between the two old men added a hint of gunpowder to the air. Qin weighed the knife in his hand, but he had a smile on his face. "If I had known that you would do this, I wouldn't have used a knife. I should have used a gun." Then, he looked at Dong Wu, who was holding a broken sword, and said discontentedly, "It's all your fault. I said I would bring a gun, but you said no." Dong Wu snorted, "Next time, I won't stop you even if you bring a gun with you." This was obviously a disguised threat. Fu Chuanfu turned the car around and Jin Dahe also got in. Then, Fu Chuanfu drove the off-road vehicle quickly to the door. "Their off-road vehicle isn't fast. I will bring people to chase after them." Gu Kawu was still unwilling. However, Dong Wu used the broken sword in his hand to stop Gu Kawu. "If you bring people to chase after them, he might really blow you up. Fu Chuanfu, that old thing, is not easy to deal with. I know him. Just now, he brought someone with him. There must be someone outside to receive him. If you go, you won't even know how you died." "But," Gu Kawu had a stomach full of anger, but he had nowhere to vent it. Qin Chi said gloomily, "If we start a war with the Shinto family, we will lose 800 men to kill 1,000 of them. We will definitely suffer a lot. Your father will have to make the decision on this matter. However, it is much easier to deal with that kid called Charlotte. You can make the decision yourself." Charlotte. Gu Kawu suddenly remembered the scene of Charlotte kicking him to the ground. This was a great humiliation to him. He gritted his teeth and said viciously, "If it wasn't for that kid, why would Shinto Tianyin and I have fallen out? He ruined my plans. I want his life." "Okay, I will help you with this matter," Qin Chi said. Dong Wu also said, "Count me in too. That kid destroyed my ancestral Qingfeng sword. I will settle this debt with him." Under the night sky, an off-road vehicle sped on the road. In order to bandage Charlotte's wound, Shinto Tianyin almost tore off her dress. Her pair of beautiful legs were exposed to the air, emitting a youthful aura. However, she didn't care about her appearance. Charlotte also used silver needles to prick himself a dozen times, using acupuncture to help stop the bleeding. After inserting the silver needles, his condition finally stabilized. There were some signs of blood soaking in the wound, but it was no longer a hindrance. "Uncle Fu, how did you know that something had happened in the Ensemble of Heroes Club?" Charlotte hadn't figured it out. Because the signal tower on the island was off, Shinto Tianyin couldn't call for help at all. Fu Chuanfu said, "You and the young miss went to the Ensemble of Heroes Club. The young miss didn't want us to follow. She said that your protection was enough. I thought about it for a while. No matter how powerful you are only one person, so I brought Jin Dahu and the others with me. We were outside and we were prepared. As soon as I found out that something had happened inside, I drove in. Fortunately, I came and was prepared. Otherwise, you would have died inside this time." He sighed. "You still lack experience. You have to be careful when dealing with the Gu family. They are all vicious wolves who eat people without spitting out the bones." "Uncle Fu, I will remember. Thank you." Charlotte felt a trace of guilt in his heart. He had said that he could protect Shinto Tianyin, but tonight, if Fu Chuanfu hadn't been worried and followed them secretly, Shinto Tianyin would have definitely fallen into the hands of Gu Kawu. As for him, his legs would probably have been cut off, and he would have been humiliated and thrown into a sewer, right? There was a voice in Charlotte's heart. This kind of thing can't happen again in the future. The off-road vehicle didn't drive far when a pickup truck drove out from the fork in the road, closely following the off-road vehicle driven by Fu Chuanfu. Charlotte saw the pickup truck following them from the rearview mirror, and he also saw Park Taiji sitting in the driver's seat and Jin Zhenhuan sitting in the passenger seat. He didn't see Park Canlai, but he imagined that he was also in the pickup truck. Fu Chuanfu was indeed an experienced person. Not only did he successfully help him and Shinto Tianyin get out of trouble, but he also prevented Gu Kawu from sending people to chase after them. He had arranged everything. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, "Experience is really important. It's a pity that when Long Bing taught me in the past, I thought that the things she taught me were useless. I really should learn from her. If I had as much experience as Uncle Fu, it wouldn't have been so dangerous tonight." He didn't know why, but at this time, he thought of Long Bing, a woman who would kill without blinking. "Are you better?" Shinto Tianyin's voice brought Charlotte's mind back. Charlotte smiled. "I'm fine. I'm really fine. Don't worry. I'm a doctor now, after all. I know my own situation very well. There's blood on your face. Let me wipe it for you." Shinto Tianyin reached out and wiped the blood on Charlotte's face with his sleeve. Charlotte didn't move. He awkwardly let Shinto Tianyin help him wipe his face. After Shinto Tianyin wiped the blood on Charlotte's face, she held his hand. "Your hand is so cold. Put it on my leg. I'll help you warm it." Charlotte subconsciously glanced at her leg. She had almost torn off her entire dress, leaving only a pair of black suspenders stockings on her leg. In such a situation, how could he have the nerve to put his hand on her leg to warm her up? However, before he could find a reason to tactfully decline, Shintu had already grabbed his hand and dragged it to her thigh. Then, she used her hand to cover it, using her body to bring warmth to him. His hand happened to be placed on top of the suspenders stockings. It was all warm and smooth skin. Fu Chuanfu glanced at the rearview mirror and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Then, he moved his gaze away. Mr. Xia, you have to tell the people around you to be careful and not be taken advantage of. You should understand what I mean. Charlotte replied, I will. Eldest Mississippi, Fu Chuanfu said again. Are we going back to our hometown in the countryside or somewhere else? Shintu Tianyin said, let's go to my dad's place. It's quiet there and there are many rooms. De Hu and the others can also live there. Fu Chuanfu said, all right, let's go there. Charlotte hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he braced himself and said, send me to the Liang family. Fu Chuanfu didn't say anything, but Shintu Tianyin said, no, you're already like this, why are you still going to the Liang family? Besides, you're covered in blood. You'll scare the neighbors. The words that Charlotte wanted to say were immediately blocked. The off-road vehicle sped through the streets, and the scenery of the city was bizarre. Xia Lei's mind didn't have the slightest bit of scenery, only nervousness and awkwardness. Not for anything else, but because of the warm hand that he placed on Shintu Tianyin's thigh, and more than once, because of the red light break, he slipped in and touched the black lace that he shouldn't have touched. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.